What's up, everybody? I guess that's just how it's gonna be today, huh? That's just what my hair is gonna do, I guess. Sometimes you can't help that sort of thing, you know. Sometimes your hair just does what it does. I trimmed my bangs today, so I probably look a little bit less messy, you know. There we go. There we go. And there we go. And there. And there. And there. There we go. And there. And there. And then there we go. Hmm. Let's just see. Let's just see something. Well, no. I'm debating on lighting my candles, right? Because if I light this candle, in theory, I'll have a nice candle light to look by. But then if I want to move the candle and go outside somewhere, it's going to be a lot harder to handle it. And I am thinking about going outside at some point in the stream. So I guess I'm just going to have to hold off. Yo, yo, yo. What's up? What's up, everybody? Yeah, hopefully my new hairstyle is not too jarring. I mean, it's not a new hairstyle, but hopefully the trim up isn't too jarring. Make sure you guys hit that like button as you trickle in. Meow. Meow, meow. What do you need, kitty? What do you need? Hold on for just 1 second. I gotta feed my cats. Oh, they're not exactly my cats, but yeah, I take care of them, so. Oh, so the death toll in Texas has climbed to something like 159 people, something like that. Or maybe that was the missing count. But the death toll is something like 148. So there is almost 200 people dead in Texas now on account of all this flooding. And I don't know. I've heard a lot of people talking about Trump and implicating him and his administration in the handling of this incident and in how it all played out. And I'm ultimately on the fence about that. I don't really know because I feel like there's way too many factors for us to know for 100% sure. But I did read something earlier that was a little alarming, a little jarring, if you will. Apparently, Trump fired a bunch of fucking people from FEMA's call center staff on the 5th. So literally, these floods happen on the 4th, and then on the 5th, a bunch of the call center workers who would normally be taking calls for FEMA are fired, and then over the next few days, something like thousands of phone calls went unanswered. Thousands of phone calls to FEMA went just completely unanswered. So, as of right now, I think that this narrative that Trump is somewhat responsible for the response as it played out, and for the disaster, and like the lack of coordination and getting people out and the preparedness and that sort of thing. It's beginning to look more and more possible. Like that narrative's beginning to look more and more likely. So it'll be interesting to see how the MAGAs defend this one. Like that's unconscionable. You've got massive flooding on the 4th, and then you somehow manage to go through with firing a bunch of people from the call centers that were responsible for dealing with the masses of people who are calling from these disaster-ridden areas. You fire a bunch of people responsible for managing that immediately the next day. Like, nobody stops them. Nobody stepped in and said, hey, maybe this is not the right time for this. Maybe we should like back on up off this whole, let's get rid of FEMA thing. Maybe we should wait till after the flood waters recede. But that's not the direction that they went, clearly. And Trump is now talking up the efforts of FEMA, but who knows where the fuck that's going to end up ultimately. Are you gay? I am incredibly queer, my friend. I'm as queer as they come. $25 to shave one eyebrow? That is far too low to shave an eyebrow, my friend. Far too low. I have people that send me $25 just because they like me. You want me to shave an eyebrow? You're going to have to come up with like $200 or something for that one. I skipped yours, Edison, because it added nothing to the conversation. And honestly, none of the last few chats that I've read have. But you have to sort of read these chats in order to have one of these sorts of streams. I mean, it's all built on the chat. So yes, I did not read your repetitive garbage where you said that God is your one and only, because it's not very interesting to me. I would like to talk about the Texas floods and the effect that malfeasance in high levels of our government might have had on those floods. Is there anybody else in the chat interested in talking about matters of import? Is there anybody else out there? Hello? Is there anybody in there? Let's go easy on the trolls for a while, Casey, because I want to make sure I have plenty of material to respond to tonight. Can we talk about the war on Cybertron? No, but we can talk about the war on your fat ass mama. Oof. The war that's been waged on that lady. Let's just say it's a war of many cannons. West been hit, the East been hit, now the South waiting on a Midwestern disaster to make things full circle. It's Twister/flood season in the Midwest. We be hit bad. Oh, you guys are about to get it. Like you said, it's Twister season in the Midwest. Things are ripe. A bunch of storms have been rolling through the United States over the last few weeks, and I have no doubt in my mind that before the end of summer, some or maybe a few different places in the Midwest are going to have to endure some serious tornadoes and some serious fucking outgrowths from tropical depressions and tropical weather, things like that. That sort of thing always ends up happening in the Midwest. And in years like this, where you get a bunch of disasters all over the rest of the country, they're not long to follow in the Midwest. And yes, this is going to be a disaster-prone year. I can already tell. These, by the way, these are the ill fruits of climate change and our utter refusal to do anything about it. Make no bones about it. These things are directly related. The fact that massive once in 100-year flooding happened 3 times in 1 week in Texas is not something that just normally happened due to no influence from us and due to no other factors. That is something you can tie squarely back to climate change. playing with our food tonight. Oh, 100%. Make sure you guys hit that like button, by the way. That is the best and most effective way that you can make sure the stream remains interesting, is by keeping the amount of people interacting in the chat high, by sharing the stream around, and by hitting the like button. That pops it out to the rest of YouTube's algorithm and says, hey, come listen to this bitch, and, you know, come prove her wrong or back her up or whatever. Whatever you want them to do, bring them to me by liking and sharing the stream. Ultimately, you can't predict natural disasters to the letter, but from what we can tell, there were a bunch of things this town had been kind of considering that they could have done, that if they had been done would have given people ample warning. And there are apparently steps that have been taken by the federal government that have actually made people actively less able to deal with big disasters like this. I mean, firing a bunch of people from FEMA is not exactly the best way to deal with a disaster, but that's exactly what Trump did the day after these massive fucking floods started. I'd like to discuss the topic. Well, please, let's engage. I love talking to people. It is kind of difficult sorting through a bunch of vapid morons to be able to do that, but that's just what you have to do. If you're going to have one of these streams where you talk to the chat, then it's the breaks. Why are you dressed like a lady? Because I am a lady. You're an idiot, dude. I am probably like at least, 6 or 7 reading grade levels above you. So, like, I could take that as like a superior insult and let my entire personality and my entire being be shattered by that. But I am buffered by the knowledge that 60% of American adults read at or below a 4th grade level. I read at a college level. That makes me, on average, what would that be? Let's see, 4, then 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that makes me roughly 8 grade levels, 9 to 10. Makes me 8 to 10 grade levels above the average American. Now, does that automatically mean I'm smarter? No, but it is something worth considering when you call me an idiot. Consider how much of America is provably retarded. Provably stupid as fuck. There goes the offer. Now your browser worth 0. Bro, I literally had somebody come by and drop $150 in super chat on this stream just because they like me. I ain't looking out for your fucking offer to do a bunch of stupid lolcow shit to my body. This ain't what's on sale here. What's on sale here is an interesting experience, and if you want to contribute to that and help this channel grow by donating a super chat, we more than encourage that, because we do read every single one as long as it doesn't violate TOS. But if you think that you're going to be able to, like, pay your way into having me dance around like a little monkey for you, or like mutilate my body or something like that, not going to happen. Sorry, I have way too many people that want to pay me just for being interesting. To ever accept pay to be degrading. That's the name of the game. That's the name of the game for stupid asses that don't want to fucking learn how to grow a personality, basically. Yeah, it's the name of the game if you're willing to debase yourself in the most, superficial way. I don't know. I find that a very low form of content. It reminds me of the Freak Show. And while I may be a member of the Freak Show, I take myself just a little bit more seriously than your average bearded lady. Fun fact, a lot of people probably assume bearded ladies were just like trans women or something. Nope. Bearded ladies were usually women with PCOS and other hormonal disorders that allowed them to grow facial hair. But these conditions usually made them unsuitable for marriage, which meant they usually one career option left. I love America. What the fuck is this? It's the most American thing you've seen all day. It's someone literally expressing their First Amendment rights in a number of different ways. Freedom of the press is being expressed here. Freedom of expression is being expressed here. Freedom of association is expressed here. You should love this shit. Okay, Casey, now if you want to fucking come back and do some banning, now's a great time because there's a bunch of people that literally have nothing better to say than emojis. So that we can get rid of. We can go ahead and filter them all out. We can go ahead and filter them on out. There we go. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. No effort to look to claim no respect. I don't even know what you're trying to say, bro. I don't even know what you're trying to say. Broke rule number 1, readability. Hi, Phoebe. I heard ICE did something in a factory recently. I mean, I'm sure they have. ICE has been doing all sorts of things across a variety of different industries. They've been doing workplace raids now for about, what is it, like 2 months now, something like that. I mean, I'm sure ICE raids have been happening in workplaces, in certain workplaces the whole time, but they've gotten particularly bad over the last month and a half, 2 months. And it's not surprising to me that another factory has been raided, because I know a meatpacking plant, which is effectively just a meat factory, got raided a while back. So the idea that that's happening now in regular old manufacturers, yeah, not surprising at all. Because once again, this is not about getting hardened criminals out of our country. This is about getting Mexicans out of our country. This is about getting Mexican people out of our country. And it doesn't matter, not actually, to these people, whether or not they are here legally or not. Because a lot of the people that have been arrested are naturalized citizens who are either being subjected to denaturalization proceedings or who are being held completely without due process. And sure, some of them get freed after a while, but every single time they do, they come out with these horrible stories of the conditions in there, and nobody wants to listen or care because so many people right now are just swept up on the anti-Mexican hate train. So many people are caught up on the anti-Mexican hate train that they don't want to see another human being for what they are. Yeah, we're gonna have to turn on idiot mode. It's a shame too, because I really thought at least a couple of minutes into the stream before we had to turn on retard mode, but I guess that's just not how it's going to be. I guess I have to treat you all like a fucking kindergarten class and make you all sit in the corner for a few minutes and wait your turn to talk like a bunch of fucking third graders. Good job, everybody. You're officially dumber than a chimpanzee. God, you fucking people are apes. I literally just want to talk about something that matters. You know? I literally just want to talk about anything that matters. And like 9 out of 10 comments that I'm reading in my chat have nothing to do with a goddamn thing. Boring as fuck, repetitive as fuck. Like, fuck the fact that they're insulting. I can deal with that. Boring and repetitive bullshit every time I look. Don't tease me with baby talk. I really ain't trying to tease anybody. I'm trying to fucking make these dumb motherfuckers feel as stupid as they're acting. By the way, if anybody wants to send a super chat, that is the absolute best way to make sure that your message gets read, because I do read every single one, as long as it doesn't violate TOS. And it's also just a great way to show support for the channel. Ultimately, what we're trying to do here is foster conversations. I really don't care if you insult me. I really don't care if you disagree with me. What I care about is that you provide readable and original and interesting comments in my chat. If you can manage to do that, we can have something like a conversation. But it starts with you. God loves you, sir, not a sir. And I hope that you can learn to be respectful and come back to your senses. I am fully within my senses, friend. I have never been more familiar and comfortable with my senses at present. calling them the R word is not helping your cause. It's not hurting it either. Yeah, calling people that are calling me like the worst names in the book retarded is not bad optics. What is your take on Trump? Fucking fascist authoritarian nightmare, like pretty much everyone on the left said he was going to be. And really, he hasn't managed to keep any of his promises when it comes to foreign policy either, which is the one area that I thought Trump might do actually kind of good and respectable in. I thought that we might end up with another Trump presidency that doesn't lead to any more wars. I thought that. It was one of the few credits I could give to the old orange bastard. Now, I can't even say that. Thanks, Trump, for striking Iran at the behest of Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm sure we really needed that. I'm sure Iranian children really needed to see missiles whizzing overhead on account of some shit that their Ayatollah said. Not even on account of that. On account of some shit that some fucking foreign prime minister said about their country that had nothing to do with reality. That was literally the consent of the American people for those strikes was manufactured so fucking hardcore. If you go back to like 2 or 3 months ago, the U.S. intelligence community was roundly, proudly talking about how Iran's nowhere close to getting nuclear weapons. We don't need to worry about Iran. Iran's not a concern. Iran, right? Now, with pressure from the White House, they've come out and they've admitted, or not, well, they've not admitted, but they've turned around their rhetoric, right? Now, instead of it being something, oh, it's years away, now it's like, oh, they're weeks away, they're months away. Well, I'm sorry, you don't go from being years away to being months away. So either they were lying to us now or they're lying to us then. Either way, I don't know if we can trust them anymore. But yet, there are still plenty of Americans willing to go along with that. And it sucks because I really thought, when Trump issued those strikes, right, when he authorized that military action, I really thought, because there were a lot of MAGAs that came out and were like, but it seems to only have alienated a few people. But, I still believe that the people who spoke out against that are still probably against it and still would probably rather not have someone like Trump in the position to, I don't know, possibly nuke Iran. I'm sure that remains true, which is why I insist on having so many conversations with conservatives, is because I know, just from the voting statistics alone, but also from matters like that, I know that these people are reachable. I know that they remain human. May God find you. I love how you assume that because I'm trans and talking about politics, that means I must live a godless heathen life, right? I'm wearing black and lace, and I'm trans, so therefore I must live a godless heathen life, right? Whatever happened to judge not, lest ye be judged? People are really subscribing just to troll. Not only are they subscribing just to troll, they'll come back just to troll, because the fact of it is, for a lot of these trolls, they find me interesting. Whether they want to admit it or not, a lot of the people trolling right now find me deeply interesting, which is why my streams usually average between 15 to 25,000 views. Just simple math. A lot of these people, and my returning view numbers are fucking really good too. I have way more returning viewers than I do subs. So there are plenty of people who just come in and troll until I turn sub mode on. And then there's another subset of people, and I gain more every single time I turn sub mode on, that just love to come in here to troll. And they're subscribed, and you know what? Their view hour pays me just as well as anybody else's does. And they're just as likely to send me super chats as anybody else is. Because as it turns out, you don't have to think that somebody is 100% right, or even 50% right, to want to support them monetarily, or to want to pay them to argue with them, which is what happens a lot of the time. People will literally send me a $10 super chat just so that they can get around the character limit and ask me a more complicated question. Let's turn this fan around. Okay. By the way, there's 288 people in here. If half of you guys right now, we would be sitting at 144 likes like that. So please hit that button. It really does help. The only way I could do that was if you wanted me to, I could come and pick it out, then I could pick it up and you could. What the fuck are you even talking about, dude? Bot comments. I swear to God. Bot comments. Well, number one, I'm not a he, but number two, I do vape, and because I'm not 12, every time I see someone out in public, I don't have like the inherent need to comment on their vaping. You know, it just never occurs to me to be an interesting topic. But for some reason, amongst certain people, they insist upon bringing it up as if they are the fucking main character of life, and as if their having never touched a vape before is the most interesting thing in the room. Why doesn't Trump deserve the NPP? Russian, Ukraine, Rwanda, Congo, Israel, Iran, Israel, God. Bro, Ben, none of these issues he's solved. He's okay. So the Nobel Peace Prize is supposed to be given to peacemakers. Trump is not a peacemaker. He's actively continuing to send weapons to Ukraine through NATO. Okay. I have no idea about Rwanda and the Congo. I guess that's just a blind spot, but I can't commentate on it honestly, so I won't, for the sake of intellectual honesty. But as far as Israel, Iran, and Israel, Gaza, Trump has not managed to broker a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza. Trump has not managed to broker what I consider to be an effective ceasefire between Israel and Iran, because Israel continues to saber rattle with Iran, and Iran continues to saber rattle with Israel. They keep shaking their swords at each other. They keep pointing their missiles at each other. But somehow we're going to consider this a ceasefire? Yeah, it's a ceasefire, but it's not a cessation of rhetoric. It's not a cessation of mission. It's not a cessation of mission. So why exactly would he deserve the Nobel Peace Prize? What has he done in furtherance of peacemaking? He's trying to solve it? Well, how about this? If he manages to solve it and it lasts more than 6 months, then we can consider him for a Nobel Peace Prize. I'm not even kidding. If Trump manages to find an actual long-lasting solution that includes the humanitarian needs and rights of all people involved, if Trump a long-lasting solution for some of these problems, I'm willing to say, yeah, maybe at that point he does deserve a peace prize. But if his way of getting to that quote-unquote peace is to enforce a Pax Americana on the Middle East by just like blowing it all to smithereens, or by dismantling every government that gets in his way, that is not making peace. That is setting up the conditions for further war. And frankly, by the way, Barack Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize. That dude ramped up the drone war to a degree that is absurd. So how much fucking, really, how much honor and nobility are we going to give to this award now? It's been given to fucking Barack, I kill kids with text messages, Obama. Really? Oh, dude, whatever. People say they're reporting all the time. A lot of people aren't, and frankly, I have had videos get taken down by YouTube, and they've been back up within 15 minutes. Literally, I literally got. Well, I didn't get banned, but I got my stream banned one time, and it was ineligible to be re-uploaded. But I appealed it, and I explained why I figured I got that report brigade, and YouTube agreed with me. Literally, I started up a new stream right after it because I didn't get a strike or anything. So I started up a new stream right after it, and literally 15 minutes into that new stream, I got the notification that what is now called the legendary banned stream was now back up. Who would you vote for, Zoran versus Trump? Oh, dude. Well, Zoran is not eligible. Yeah, you understand, Ben. Zoran is not eligible to run in the United States presidential election because Zoran was born in Uganda. So, like, he's ineligible to run as a presidential candidate. But if Zoran Mamdani was everything he is today, but had been born an American, I would definitely vote for Zoran over Trump any day of the week. Any day of the week. I mean, honestly, I way prefer Zoran's speaking style. Even if I was like a superficial person that just voted on personality, I would still vote for Zoran over Trump. Because Trump, you probably have a different perception of things, but I find Trump insufferable to listen to. I find him impossible to listen to for more than a few minutes. I find his speech style obnoxious. I find his manners of speech to be repetitive and annoying. And I find Zoran Mamdani to be a really human dude, to just be like an everyday, average fuck with a sense of humor and a realistic, like a realistic grasp of what regular people care about. You're the last person anybody should take any advice from. Says a dumbass paper bag on the internet. Why the fuck would I listen to you either? At least people know what I am. They can decide whether they want to take advice from me or not. They can decide whether they want to take my political insight seriously or not, but they can decide that based on a myriad of factors. They can take how I dress, how I present myself, how I carry myself, the conversations that I choose to engage in. And I will tell you this, many people have come through this chat and said, you know what, I disagree with you pretty heavily, but the fact that you let us have conversations about this sort of thing, the fact that you engage with us directly without just banning us is pretty fucking cool, pretty fucking based. And I'm sure that if you stick around and make another alt and come back, you'll find that out too. I'm new here. What have I missed? Nothing functionally. We're talking about politics. I don't remember exactly where we were, but I'm sure somebody in chat will put me back onto it in just a second. How do you feel about Trump with the action he has done? With the actions he's taken so far? Are we talking about domestically, globally, or both? Like, in general, I don't think his record has been super fucking good as of right now. I think there have been ebbs and flows, but I think domestically, pretty much all of his policy has been bad. This fucking trade war with every other fucking developed country on the planet is not a good thing. His war, getting ICE to, basically engaging in a war against the entire Hispanic community, that's not a good thing. Thank you, by the way, Glitch Dash, for gifting memberships. That's really kind of you. It looks like we've got Lee Russell with a fucking gift membership. Hell yeah. Welcome to the membership, y'all. Wow, 302 viewers. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Thank you so much. I used to support Trump, but with the recent Epstein list no longer existing, unconstitutional ICE raids, everything is a shit show. I still consider myself a Republican, but I'm burning my MAGA hat. Well, see, Benji, people like you are what gives me hope, right? And that's why I have all these conversations, because I know for a fact that just because someone has a MAGA hat does not mean that they're going to go along blindly like a lemming to every fucking to every tap on Trump's drum, right? Like, there are people who voted for Trump that still march to the beat of their own drum and have their own fucking philosophy and have their own ideas about shit and can recognize when something is unconstitutional, like these ICE raids are. These ICE raids, like you said, they're fundamentally unconstitutional. People have a right in this country that's been well established to know who the fuck is trying to arrest them. People have a right in this country to have their rights read to them and to be given due cause and shit. None of these things are happening, or due process rather. None of these things are happening. Due process is not happening. There are literally thousands of people right now locked up that have paperwork that says that they should be allowed to walk free, and their concerns just are not being listened to because it's not convenient for the Trump administration right now to admit that they fucked up. I'm in the middle. It's foolish to think any of them will be for the people. I tend to agree, Feet. I mean, like, if we're going to talk about the duopoly of the two parties, what I call the uniparty, yeah, fucking Republicans aren't for the people. Democrats aren't for the people. Most people, except regular people, aren't for the people. But if you're talking about people in politics, they're all of them vampires. It doesn't matter if they have an R or a D next to their name. The Democrats proved they're fucking vampires when they went around telling us all how the fuck this was all going to turn out, telling us all that Trump was going to be the fascist that he's turned out to be today, and then running an unelectable piece of shit, and then turning around and running an even less electable piece of shit, Kamala Harris. 2 unelectable dumb fucks in a row in the same year, the same electoral year. Imagine that. That's just is not a bad strategy. It's really malicious strategy meant to the American people into voting for them again despite ineptitude, and allowing the American people to let the Republican Party fuck the up again for another 4 to 8 years before Democrats come back through and normalize all those changes, introduce a few little relief measures, but ultimately do nothing to fix the major problems. Why is stream quality so bad? That might be the fault. Is it any better? Is it any better? Testing. Testing. Am I coming in clear? Okay, I'm coming in clear now. Okay, cool. Somewhat better. Well, I turned Wi-Fi out. I turned Wi-Fi off, so hopefully my connection shouldn't be competing anymore. ICE agents don't need due process to arrest illegal persons. Yes, they do. Yes, they fucking do. Human beings are entitled to due process in this country. We believe in human rights. Not rights for citizens, rights for fucking human beings. Just because you weren't born here doesn't mean we can do whatever the fuck we want to you. That's like saying ICE immigrants are allowed to just murder someone on the street. They're not from here. They don't, they haven't legally immigrated here, so what we do to them doesn't matter. I mean, I can't think of a less human position. I think of a sicker position on this issue. They're doing that to us in Mexico. Oh, okay. So it makes it okay then. So tit for tat. You know the phrase "an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind." Being here illegally doesn't grant you due process. I never said it did. What I said is that due process is granted to every human being within our country. The Constitution guarantees people's rights. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the various federal laws that have been passed to clarify those things and to expand them. It makes it very fucking clear that it doesn't matter if you're dealing with a citizen or a non-citizen, someone you're pretty sure is a criminal, someone you're not quite sure is a criminal. It doesn't matter. You are supposed to treat them with due process. Let me explain to you guys why you're supposed to treat an undocumented immigrant with due process, and why you're supposed to treat everyone with due process. Because due process is the thing that should tell you whether or not you have an illegal immigrant to begin with. Due process is things like, what's your name, what's your date of birth, here's your Miranda rights, here's what's going on. Due process is things like, here's your court date, here's a chance to phone your lawyer, here's a chance to phone your family. That's due process. That's not what these people are getting. This creature is something yeah, am I now? You are a crazy Ted Kazinski kind of person. You're dangerous, in my opinion. What the fuck do you know about my opinions other than I don't support Trump's fascist fucking border policy, and I don't support Trump's fascist immigration policy? That's the sum total of what you know about me. That's the sum total of what you know about my positions. So why are you fronting like you've got some position with which to judge me? Just doesn't make any sense. Miranda rights are not human rights. Why don't you just say it out loud, Andy? Just say, I don't believe that immigrants should be entitled to human rights. Just say that, Andy. Say it. I want to hear you say it. Just say it. Immigrants shouldn't be entitled to human rights. Admit the Nazi that you are. What is your stance on illegal immigration? Should anyone that makes it here be allowed to stay? What is a better way to handle it so that we don't overburden our economy? Well, here's the thing, Jordan. I constantly hear two different lines of rhetoric about the economy. I constantly hear that we're in a labor shortage and that nobody wants to work anymore, right? But then when they're talking about illegal immigration, I hear that illegal, and really you'll get both. What angle to take in that moment to the narrative that they built. So if they're talking about Sanders just wants to give everything away, we really need more people. Or if they want to talk about abortions, especially, they'll bring up how we really need to outlaw abortion and we really need to make it hard for people to not have kids because, man, we need more kids. We need more people. Demographic collapse. And when people are talking about why they can't find anybody to work in their stores or whatever, they want to bring it up then. But then when they're talking about illegal immigration, they want to talk about how our economy just can't support that many people. Well, which one is it? In my opinion, our economy can support plenty more immigrants. If it couldn't, there wouldn't be a giant fucking dearth of employees in a lot of these industries. There are so many industries in America that literally just cannot fucking find people to work there because the town that they're built in just doesn't have enough people around it, or because of demographic shifts making people less likely to work in this industry and the other industry, because of Americans figuring out ways to earn a living that don't involve going through the traditional paths of employment and shit. All of these things have added stressors to the economy that have led to people being led to America, especially our agriculture and our manufacturing and our construction industries. Those three industries are incredibly reliant on foreign labor, some of it legal, much of it illegal. My 600-pound life said the fattest motherfucker I bet any of us has ever seen. How much you want to bet that motherfucker had to suck on their thumbs for like 3 minutes to clear off the Cheeto dust off of them before they could finally get their greasy fucking paws onto their cell phone long enough to type out a comment in here? How much you want to bet? My big old flat fabbly fucking bubbly jiggly ass is on here because I have the confidence to show what I look like. Your dumb motherfucking ass doesn't even have that much going for you, bud. So what do you look like? You want to take it there? Let's take it there. How much y'all want to bet this person lives in the Northwest? I live in Mississippi. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that what I know? In your mind, every single person that ever grew up or was born in the South or the Midwest is a fucking Trump-loving Republican just like you, right? This is the thing, dude. This is the sort of vitriol and hatefulness that gets me. I feel like I have to meet this shit. I feel like I have to meet people where they meet me. But it bothers me that so many people choose to meet me with vitriol from the very start. None of this shit hurts my feelings. So if that's the goal, you're wasting your time. All you're going to get from me in terms of a response is get your ass clapped. You're just going to get fucked because I'm better at verbalizing insults than you are. I'm better at guessing what someone's buttons are than you are. And so there's nothing for you to gain from this except embarrassment. Which is why I don't understand why people don't want to just engage on good faith with these issues and actually talk about them for real. Like, we can have a real conversation about the shit that Trump is doing with ICE. And some people have attempted to do that. What bothers me is that there's dumbasses like this Jonathan fuck that just want to keep on coming in, talking shit. like a little bitch. They don't want to have a real conversation. They want to avoid the conversation by calling names and doing stupid little pussy ass tactics like that. And that shit bothers me because I like, what am I supposed to do with that other than derision when it comes like that? I support you. I really don't even want people to support me. I just don't like it when someone is literally unable to come up with anything other than derision, right? It's one thing to have one hateful comment and then to move on to trying to have a conversation. It's one thing to make a hateful comment or something you don't really even know is a hateful comment in the middle of a conversation. It's another thing to be entirely conversation avoidant and to just be like a shit talker, just like a shit stirrer, someone who exists to try and garner some sort of like, I don't know, profound emotional reaction out of a streamer. Imagine getting kicked off the short bus. I know. We literally have it on idiot mode. So the people getting banned out of here right now are idiots among idiots, bro. Money for having to deal with the mentally challenged. Thank you, Frey. I appreciate that a lot. Here at Phoebe Ophelia Industries, we really do try to provide top quality care for the mentally retarded, and we take our challenge very seriously because we know that they do. Dude, Frey, I don't remember if it was the last Onion Nuggets, and it wasn't the one you guys did tonight, but I don't remember if it was the one you guys did before that or the one before that. But when you guys covered that video about like little retarded kids or whatever, I don't remember the subject of it. I just remember it being a video from like the 70s or 80s. Like, when it comes to caring for the retarded, empathy goes a long way, or something like that, right? All I could think is, with all the shit that people have been saying about Paul's R slur, I typed it in the chat, but I couldn't get Paul's attention with it successfully. I just wanted to be like, Paul, make sure you listen up here. I've heard that you have a real problem with this community. Bots and bait, finding a genuine person or having a discussion is next to impossible online. I would say it's hard. I wouldn't say it's next to impossible, but it definitely is hard, Femboy Stormtrooper. And it's made harder by the fact that some people don't even want to go to the internet for that. Some people don't know how. And the internet's not really built for it. The internet's not built as a place that encourages the sort of thing that we force people to engage in here. The internet is more built for derision. It's more built for vitriol and anger and hatefulness and spite. And that's what the internet encourages. That's what social media encourages, and that's what people have to deal with. By the way, Bray, thank you so much for the $5. Jordan, this is what this world has come to, TBH. You don't agree? They go to name calling, then play victim. Literally, I love this, dude. Every other motherfucker in the chat has been name calling. I bet. How much you want to go to? How much we want to bet? We go to this person's fucking messages. We're gonna see them calling names. Okay, actually you didn't. So L on that one. Whatever. People will moralize about that kind of thing, but then literally start their conversation off with the name calling, whatever. Zingy, you may have a different perception of strategy or whatever, but when it comes to me, the way I run things, if you come at me with insulting language, I'm going to come back at you with insulting language. And there have been a lot of people making conservative arguments that just cannot help but make them without calling me a fat ass. Cannot help make them without being derisive in some way. Or people that are making them and then instantly go into derision. I just don't what use is it sparing a person like that from calling them an idiot? It's one thing if somebody comes in here with like a genuine disagreement. Like I said, it's one thing if a hateful comment comes out in the middle of a discussion, or if you start off with a hateful comment, but then you go into being at least halfway good faith, or if you're being hateful but actually making arguments and responding to them. But that's not what any of the people that I was just talking about were doing. I don't find a whole lot of, like, I don't think that there's a whole lot of methods to deal with people like that outside of deriding them. There are a handful of people in chat trying to have a genuine discussion. I know. It is a handful. You know what we'll do? Here. I hate to do it to them, but we'll turn on all messages and we'll go to a 5-minute sub time. And that should help make things even more readable. I hate that we have to do that, though. I really don't feel like things should this, like, unusable. But here we are. Did you grow up with both your parents in the household? Until I was 14. My parents got divorced when I was 14, and then I was raised by my mom up until I was like 21. No, I was 20 when I moved out. No, actually I was 19. God damn, I never really thought about it, but I was 19 when I moved out, and I turned 20 there in the place I moved to, Carrollton, and then next year, obviously, I would have turned 21 up there. So, yeah, that's weird. I just never thought about that. But, yeah, so I've been living on my own since I was 19, more or less. I mean, I'm back to living with my parents now, but it's a radically different situation that is no longer necessity so much as it is, like, other things, you know? Obviously, nobody wants to get into all of their personal business online, but suffice to say, it's not a matter of, like, not being able to get, like, a place of my own. I literally moved from an apartment in Massachusetts down here because my parents got back together, moved back onto the old farmstead, and offered me the chance to come back and live down here, like, that way that, like, they're getting older, less able to get around, less able to do things, and getting closer to the time where if somebody's going to take it over, somebody needs to come get ready to take it over. So, kind of crazy to think about, though. That is a hell of a life journey. So what's your point? You've been spreading misinformation and lies the entire stream. You've been saying I've been spreading misinformation and lies the entire stream, but you haven't disproved a single thing I've said. You haven't called into question a single thing I've said. You've just called everything I say into question the same way Trump does, by just saying, fake news, oh, misinformation. I'm not going to debate you, bro. Bro, listen, you ain't going to get a debate here. You can get an argument with me if you want. We can have an argument here in the comments, but you're not going to get a debate because the only moderators that are here are all on my side. So it's not a debate. It's an argument. And you're not going to get banned for having an argument, but let's make it fucking perfectly clear what it is up front. Well, Jordan, you have to understand, Casey, part of why I empower people here is because there are certain people who know when somebody is just a dumb fuck and when somebody is worth stirring up, right? And Casey is being an agitator. You know, like, Casey is, like, as far as Casey is concerned, they're just doing their job as a member of chat. They're getting people in chat riled up, getting them to comment more. Like, Casey's not doing anything wrong. Casey's not going to ban you just because you disagree with him. Casey's not going to ban you just because you disagree with me. But Casey is going to try and get you riled up. It's up to you whether you respond to Casey's trolling. It's up to you whether you respond to it. So you'll only argue with me if you have a massive advantage? LOL, you don't want a fair argument. You just want to have an advantage? Bro, what do you expect me to do? End my stream and get on a one-on-one Discord call with you? What exactly are you suggesting? How is Trump a fascist? Are you seriously comparing him to Hitler and Stalin? No, Ben. Thank you for asking. I'm not comparing him directly to Hitler and Stalin. But it is possible to have Nazi tendencies without being like a proper Nazi. And it's also possible to be a fascist without looking like fascisms of the past. Not every fascist society has some massive dictatorship with some central dude at the top who's ultimately powerful. And that's not what I think Trump is. I don't think Trump is ultimately powerful, as proved by the fact that courts have regularly knocked back his ability to do some shit. And stop doing it, he takes it to a further court. Eventually, usually the court sides with, but the fact that his administration is still at work within that and really hasn't been able to mount much of a fight against that sort of that sort of proper process and administrative rule following. The fact that they've not been able to make any headway against the actual destruction of the administrative state lends me to believe that he's never going to get to the point of a Hitler or a Stalin, but he doesn't need to deprive people of life and liberty. He doesn't need to deprive people of life and limb. He doesn't need to deprive people of their liberties or to make the quality of American life worse. He doesn't need to be Hitler or Stalin to do those things. He can be a monster all on his own. He doesn't need their help. We don't need to bring in the failed artist from Austria. We don't need to bring in the failed artist from Austria or the crazy Georgian. Okay? We don't need to bring them into this. I'm not saying Trump is Hitler or Stalin. Okay? I know he's a damned far sight from either of those guys. But the Gestapo also showed up in unmarked cars and took people away from their places of work with no explanation and without talking to any of the people that were accosting them for doing these things. So, you see what I'm saying? You can share tactics with an organizational movement. You can share tactics and share etymologies and frameworks and everything else without going as far as that other one did. How is he a monster at all? He's done nothing violent at all. Have you not heard about the use of have you not heard about a protesters getting arrested with force and shit? Force actively being used against protesters, not just in this most recent case. It was happening all over LA too during the massive protests in LA. Trump authorized 3 strikes in Iran, 3 U.S. strikes. Trump authorized those. So exactly, what is violence to you? Because when I think of violence being committed by a president, I don't think of him going up to somebody and punching their face. I think of him making policy and instructing the military in ways that cause more violence, such as striking Iran or unleashing the fucking Marines on LA. On a protest, which, by the way, started entirely peacefully. By the way, if anybody wants to send a super chat, that is the best way you could support the channel, and it is something that I always read, every single one, as long as it doesn't violate TOS. I also have memberships open. Members get access to members-only streams, members-only chats, which is something I'll be scheduling here pretty soon, and a myriad of other benefits as the channel goes along and gets bigger and as my content offerings expand. He was found liable for sexual assault as well. Yeah. Protesters getting arrested with force, LOL, that's all you got? No, that's not all I got. You want to fucking account for the other shit? You want to account for the other shit? You want to account for the other shit? What about him striking Iran? What about him unleashing what about him unleashing the National Guard, not just in LA this last time, but unleashing the National Guard in LA and a bunch of other fucking cities during the George Floyd protests back in 2020? What about Trump literally inciting an insurrection attempt on January 6th of 2021 because he wasn't happy with the election results? What about that? People rage baiting just want reactions and attention. Post. That's it. They don't get that. They start calling you names. Oh man, Zingy is just like hung up on the fact that I called some people an idiot. It's okay, Zingy. You'll get over it eventually. Trust me. Phoebes, you should make members only custom emojis. I really want to do that, but I don't know anything about making emojis. So I need to get a crash course in that. If he didn't release the Marines, more people would have gotten hurt and more property would have been damaged. Let's just be completely fucking real here. The second part of that sentence is what you care about. The second part of that sentence is what you care about, because plenty of people got hurt by the National Guards and the Marines over the course of those protests. Tear gas was deployed in LA over the course of those protests. So you don't care that people got hurt. You care that the National Guard showed up to protect Prada stores. You don't give a fuck about Beverly Hills any other day of the week. But when push comes to shove, you care about property rights. When push comes to shove, you care about rich people's rights to stay rich and to never have anything like a silly little protest impinge on that. And so while you might talk shit on Beverly Hills all day long, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday comes, and there's a big protest on, oh man, you are all about sending out that military to make sure that the rich motherfuckers of the cities that create all of the worst pollution on the planet and create all of the worst policy and generate all of the worst and most absurd trends, all of these things that you decry throughout the rest of your week, you are more than happy to put aside and celebrate the unleashing of the dogs on protesters who would seek to damage the profits of these people that you ultimately seek camaraderie with, even if you don't like their personal politics. Gotcha. You call yourself a journalist, and yet you are engaging in some of the most ridiculous mental gymnastics I've ever seen a human being engage in. You should be ashamed to call yourself a journalist. What you're presenting to me right now is outright bullshit. The January 6th was the most American thing I've ever seen. That was real democracy, and those people, oh, okay. Yeah, they were pardoned by the dude that they fucking did it for. Okay, so now everybody that Biden pardoned deserved that pardon? Good to know. Good to know. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to go through and read any of the comments you left earlier, because I can already tell where this conversation is going to go. We can keep arguing, but you have no fucking right to call yourself a journalist. You are as slanted as the fucking day is long. Whatever beleaguered paper you write for, I hope they're well aware of the fact that they've got like a conservative chill writing Donald Rumsfeld talking points all over their fucking paper. With better mods and a structure on tracks, I'd listen to you over any. Well, don't let the door hit you on your way out, George. I like this fucking format. I like this format because it allows me to, like, yeah, it's not very structured, but Jordan, honestly, I'm fine with that. I'm capable of doing something way more structured, but it's just not what I've been presented with so far. This is the format where I found the most success, and I quite like doing it. So, I continue doing it until I get to a point of productivity where I can start doing other things. Like, for example, well, yeah, I was about to say, don't ban Jordan if you want to time him out for just like, concern trolling about the mods or whatever, that's fine, but don't ban him. Listen, if you really want to see something more structured, then keep your eyes peeled for when I start my call-in show. I don't know when I'm going to schedule it for or anything like that yet, but eventually I'm going to start doing a call-in show, and that will be way more structured. Alright, well now there's not so many ones in here. Let's fucking lower this. Any duration. Yay! I have a question. What is your opinion of Portland, Oregon policies on the drug epidemic? I'm honestly not that familiar with Portland's particular metropolitan policies when it comes to the drug epidemic. If you give me an idea of some of those like particular policies, I can tell you what I think of those particular policies. But I'm not familiar with like the politics of the Pacific Northwest to know exactly what Portland is doing on any given day. So basically, just jealous of rich people and angry that you're not rich. No, I'm not. I'm not jealous of rich people because I know what stupidity is like. I know what being depressed despite having everything looks like. I know what being miserable because there's nothing more interesting in your life looks like. No, I'm not jealous of rich people. I'm pissed off at them. It's not because I don't have what they have. It's because the things they choose to accumulate and the degree of their accumulation leads to people like me and families like mine being less able to afford healthcare, being made more liable for the upkeep of our society than we should be, because those people are not held liable for their upkeep of their society at all. Rich people are expected to not pay any taxes. Ask any rich person and they'll tell you, we don't pay taxes, we pay accountants. And they love to brag about this shit on Reddit, r/landlording, things like that, but they don't love to admit it when it comes to discussions about the fact that they suck up off of the entire working class, that their entire like base of wealth is predicated on the labor of average, regular, working class people. And they don't want to pay into that system. They just want to suck on it like a fucking leech. I give a fuck, dude. I would be perfectly happy with a minivan as the only car I ever had for the rest of my life. And I would be perfectly happy living in a double wide trailer with about 11 acres and like 5 of it cleared out so I can have a garden, raise some goats and shit. That's my idea of heaven. That's not rich people shit. I don't know if you know anything about America, but that, like 20 years ago, was working class people shit. Portland legalized all drugs. Now they're making them illegal. Do you think it was a good or bad idea? Legalize all drugs. Now they're making them illegal. I don't know. I think ultimately, yeah, legalizing and regulating all sorts of drugs, I think, is a better idea than not doing that. But you also have to understand it's not a policy that can come by itself. Like there's this great documentary you can watch called Where to Invade Next by Michael Moore, and he talks to some dude in Portugal. He talks to a couple of different people in Portugal about their policies, and one of the kind of bits in the documentary, he's like, I'm staking the American flag here, I'm stealing this, and I am taking this idea back to my country. And the Portuguese finds him. He's, well, I don't think it'll work if you bring just this idea. And he explains that in order for the end of drug prohibition to work, in order for you to end the war on drugs and transition to a better system, you can't just legalize everything and regulate it and have it, that's it, like that's all. No, you need education programs. You need rehabilitation services. You need them to be affordable and accessible too, which is a major obstacle in a lot of these places. You need them to be affordable and accessible and effective. And there's other forms of infrastructure you need too. I mean, honestly, a lot of drug addiction is caused by lack of healthcare. Or by healthcare that's meant to cater to the knowledge that you probably aren't going to be able to get healthcare much more than what you've gotten. In order to be jealous of a billionaire, you need to be a psychopathic, malignant narcissist. I 100% agree. Like, when I sit around and think of what my perfect life would be, I don't think of the type of shit that I see do. I don't think of fucking skydiving 100 times a year or fucking owning a giant yacht. I don't think about having some lavish fucking mansion somewhere in the hills of Georgia. I don't think about like having 4 different homes scattered across all of America's major climates. Like, if I could ask for everything I wanted in life, what I would probably end up with would be like a cabin in the woods somewhere up north, a regular house that I live in for the vast majority of the year somewhere in the south that, like I said, would probably be a double wide, or maybe a restored farmhouse or something like that. But I ain't fucking building a no McMansion. I don't care how much money you give me. I don't want that much space. Like, sometimes there is this one place I've like dreamed about, like if I had that, man. But every time I think about a place like that, all I can think about is like, if I did buy a mansion or something like that, I wouldn't feel right with myself if I didn't invite a bunch of people from my family and my like close friends and shit to move into it with me, because it would feel so fucking empty and foreign and weird. But honestly, when I think about what I want for just me and my family, as small as it is like 11 acres somewhere in Missouri with like a double wide or some sort of similar, not too big, but decently sized house. Big enough to get around, big enough that you're not running into people and fucking it's hard to get around in, because that's kind of a problem with single wide trailers and some smaller form factor houses. But not so big that you've got this massive fucking chore to clean every week. Um, Enough acreage, like I said, to have like 5 of it timbered out to where it's, or no, 5 of it like cleared of all timber so that it's able to be uh, like planted in or grazed on, whatever I want to use it for. And then the rest of it all in just assorted wood. Have an outbuilding for a studio. None of the shit I'm talking about is billionaire shit. None of the shit I'm talking about is shit that you need to be incredibly rich to have. So tell me, how am I jealous of a billionaire? I'm not jealous of a billionaire. I'm not jealous of rich people. I'm fucking pissed at the fact that their insistence on luxury and their refusal to ever decide enough is enough leads to the destruction of people like me and lives like mine and families like mine. And that pisses me off, and it should you too. I will probably watch that later. That sounds like a good thing to watch. Thank you. I know it's getting late. I'm gonna head out, but I do agree with you on a lot of things. But you seem like a genuine person. One more thing, don't go up north, too expensive. Rather be in the south again. Well, I'll tell you what. I live in Mississippi right now, and I don't think I can handle the fucking summers much more, honestly. Now, a lot of people are just gonna say I'm fat. I just can't hang with it because I got too much blubber. Whatever. That plays into it. But I ain't never going to lose this blubber if I can't stand to be outside for more than 10 minutes without fucking falling into a flop sweat that just dehydrates me in an hour. Like, that's just fucking not healthy either. So I don't know. I'm in a weird place, right? Because the land I live on has been owned by my family for so long, and there's like this pressure to take it over and to repair it and make it good again and to pass it on to my kids. But then on the other hand, it's like, there's so much that needs to be done. Yeah, no, I like dry heat. That's the thing. I've been all over the United States. I grew up between Mississippi and Missouri, but I've been as far east as Salisbury Beach, Massachusetts, and as far west as Pismo Beach, California. I've been as far north as the White Mountains of New Hampshire, very close to the border of Maine, and as far south as Pensacola Bay, Florida. So that is a wide swath of land. I'm not saying I covered like all 48 states within that territory, but I've covered a shit ton of different climates in my different travels. And because of that, I have a like pretty decent sense of familiarity about what I like and what I don't like. And I'll tell you, having grown up part of my life in Missouri, I way, way, way prefer its climate. Way prefer its climate. It's just objectively less hot up there in the summer. It's just less hot up there. Sometimes by an order of like 10 degrees. Sometimes it's legitimately kind of ridiculous. The real feel down here will be like 103. Up there it'll be like 92. That makes such a fucking profound difference in the amount of shit that you can stand to do outside. Plus that humidity. means that like I've got overactive sweat glands anyway. Maybe that's gross for you guys to hear, but I do, you know. And so if I'm sweating a lot and the humidity in the air is too high, it just doesn't evaporate, and I'm just like constantly having to wipe my face, constantly having to fucking like I'm just like dripping with sweat. And I just can't fucking hang with it. It makes it impossible for me to do things outside for long when the weather's real hot, because I'm not trying to use my autism as a fucking excuse, but it makes that sort of thing harder for me, which is one of the reasons why I want to move to a place where it'll be less of a problem. Because right now, really, my only solutions for it are to just like take my glasses off, to carry around like a wet towel with me that I can continuously use to wipe the sweat off my face and kind of cool down at the same time with cooler water that's more evenly distributed. And it also keeps that like cake layer of sweat from building up. But shit like that is annoying, and if I've got the option to move to a climate where I won't deal with it, I want to. Basically, got to be around the water and swim, which luckily we got plenty. I hope so too, honestly. Gosh, that's kind of like the thing. I really want that to happen. I genuinely want to start making enough money with YouTube to be able to fix up my family farm. Because right now there's some major work that needs to be done. And if it's not done, I mean, like, we're just not going to be able to do much more with the land than we already have. And we haven't done that much with it. And I can't stand to see it lose all that fucking potential. But in order to get it repaired, I'm going to need to together like $5,000 to get it all done. And it's just a high fucking price tag for one repair, even though it would be like such a massive fucking change. Connection issues? Am I having connection issues? Seems like you have to put on all these obstacles like subscribers only mode because you get too many people who disagree with you. That's not why at all. Subscribers only mode comes on because the chat moves by too quick. Like, I could turn it off right now and it wouldn't be any problem. Ultimately, I don't really care about people who disagree with me. I care about people who are neither readable, original, or interesting. So let's just go through some of the comments that have been banned lately, okay? Let's just go through it. You look like Peter Griffin with boobs. So that's a high-quality comment that I should have left on here. Alva, that's a high-quality comment that I should have let, like, that person didn't need to be banned. That person can stay. Their point is valid, right? That's just a disagreement with me, right? That's not just a trolling moron. I want to hear you say it. I want to hear you say that someone saying you look like Peter Griffin with boobs adds to the conversation in any way. Literally, I love this, Alpha. You're saying I delete all the comments that are pro-Trump, but you are literally proof that I don't. You're sitting in here commenting away, and you haven't been banned yet. Let's see. Just a trolling motherfucker. You're taking one comment out of all of them, so you're not giving full context. You're just a moron, Alva. You think you're fucking God or something, and you think you see something that you don't see. I am being 100% genuine when I look back to these comments, and the last one that was hidden was from a user named Starkiller. They were hidden by Mod Ignar Husky. Their comment was, "You look like Peter Griffin with boobs." Let's scroll up even further. Last message deleted before that was, "I think autistic Peter Griffin also has overactive sweat glands and wants to move to a cooler climate." Yeah, that person is adding to the conversation, right? That person's just a MAGA supporter that deserves to have their voice heard, right? Okay, let's go farther. Let's see what the next comment the one before that was. We've scrolled quite a bit here. Okay, 2 comments in a row from Stinky Smelly 44ER. Stink Fat Boy and Trump MAGA. So I'm supposed to leave a trolling, drooling moron because you've got your political beliefs? Is that your point? So I'm supposed to leave literal dumb fucks in here that have the mental capacity of a 12-year-old who cannot engage with in a political conversation with like facts, logic, or any kind of reasonability. I'm supposed to just let that dumb fuck slide. I'm supposed to just let them spew their stupid bullshit all day long. You realize the only fucking political point they can fucking drool out of their mouths is Trump MAGA. These aren't exactly the fucking lauded scholars you're making them out to be. You don't want these people out here making your arguments. Trust me. What? Somebody get rid of this moron. I refuse, dude. I fucking refuse. It's just like Paul said, I'm not going to be tone policed. If you don't like the tone that I took with you, get the fuck out. If you don't like the insulting language I use sometimes, get the fuck out. If you think someone calling me fat autistic Peter Griffin deserves to have like an actual counterpoint made to them, get the fuck out. You deserve nothing from me. So Alpha is right that I need to make a counterpoint against I'm fat autistic Peter Griffin. Okay, here's my counterpoint. Nuh-uh. There you go. I have given the idea the due consideration that it deserves. Don't be retarded if you don't want to get called a retard. Exactly. If you don't want to be derided by me as a stupid person, then stop acting like a stupid fuck in my chat. It's very simple. Very easy. Because none of the people that have come in here with basic disagreements with me have gotten banned. Only the people who have been literally incapable of conversating in any other way than through insult. Because you know what? I can actually respond to a point. I engage in insult too. But the difference between me and the commenters that I've been reacting to for most of the night is that I use insult when necessary. They use insult by default. It's the only way that they know how to communicate with another human being is through derision. Or at least that's the only way that they know how when they've got their little anonymous mask pulled over them. They probably never get to respond to anybody with derision in their regular everyday life, and so they worship their ability to get that sort of thing here. Some people just don't need the recognition in the chat when they're being nitpicky and taking it for no reason. Yeah, exactly. My basic thing is I want to have hard conversations about things that matter. I want to talk about complicated political issues. But I can't talk about complicated political issues with my chat if that's not the sort of comments that my chat is bringing to me. I don't care if someone disagrees with me. What I care about is I care about someone arguing in good faith, but I also care about people being readable, original, and interesting. Now, the reason Alva got banned is because at a certain point you realize that somebody is literally just being a disingenuous moron, and that the place that they're taking you leads you nowhere positive. Literally. We lost 20 viewers in the course of me chewing out Alva and explaining to them why they're a fucktard, basically. And why what they're doing is like not conducive to actually having a conversation and shit. But they don't want to see that. They don't want to see that. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to admit, yeah, I guess I was wrong about that. Those are some pretty stupid comments. They want me to make a counterpoint against that shit as if it deserves it. I'm not going to ennoble it with that. I'm sorry. I invite you to come in here and disagree with me. I invite you to ask me questions that a lot of other trans people might take offense to. I invite you to offend me if it's in furtherance of genuinely like furthering your understanding of trans people. But if your only fucking intent in offending me is to try and get some riled up reaction out of me, I'm just going to ban your dumb ass out of here. And we know how to tell the difference around here. Thank you for signing up for the membership. Have I told you that already? Maybe if these people would simply listen and watch, maybe they'd know that you don't just ban opposing views. You got a lot of conservatives that pop on here and chat, and some are regulars even. Yeah, no, 100%. I don't know if there's any in chat right now that want to pop up, but yeah, like I've got plenty of conservatives that watch regularly, plenty of them that are regulars. There's one named CWAG that would argue with me for a long time, and then they got banned up out of here because they were so chill for so long, and then they just became like a shit talker. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what went wrong with them. I guess I didn't give them the due amount of deference or whatever. But there are plenty of conservatives that hang out in here that like the vibe, that appreciate the fact that we can have a conversation about these things. But I just wish more people would understand that if you come at somebody, like just being rude to them and just being mean to them, then chances are good that you're not going to get, like, it's cryball behavior, basically. It's let me poke, and then when you turn around and slap them in the face, now they're crying. Now they're the victim. Now they're the one who's fucking offended and fucking mad and telling the teacher. It's literally playground shit. You ban people just for speak the truth. The truth. I literally ban people for being unreadable, unoriginal, or uninteresting. We've been talking about the reasons why we ban people for the last 20 fucking minutes. I'm sorry if you don't like the fact that the ban policy includes dumbasses that insist upon calling me Peter Griffin 70 times a stream. I'm sorry. Those comments gotta go. Not because they deeply offend me, but because I've read them now 1,000,000 times. There's nothing more to be squeezed out of the stone. It's not a funny reference. It's not, like, there's not even a resemblance there. It would be one thing if I actually looked like the fuck, but I don't. I banned Alva because they were literally telling me that I need to make good counterpoints against people that are literally just being trolls, which is not what, like, when it comes to a troll that's like, if you're trolling about something that's like an actual topic, sure, but if you're just trolling about the fact that you don't like me, that's not interesting content, and I'm not interested in debating whether or not you like me or not. So Burger Man is Alva, right? We all agree that Burger Man is Alva, surely. Yeah, Burger Alt, more like, no, I don't know. Maybe Burger Man is a real person, but literally, we can go back. I sure wish my phone would work. I don't know, I'm having connection issues. Anyway, so their last comment before they got banned was, basically what you're doing is only allowing people with your political beliefs to post and keep their comments shown and seen. And I proved that that was wrong. I literally proved that that was fucking wrong. I don't know what else I'm supposed to do. Like, so Alva came in at a time where they didn't see their political beliefs reflected, and they're mad about it. because they assume that because Alva who is getting out. You have are mods who are just your yes men. So there are 2 mods right now active, and 3 mods active in the chat right now. There are 30 viewers, 40 likes. So are those 40 likes just their alts then, Burger Man? What about the thousands of views that I usually get per stream? Are all those just my yes men? Tell you what, man. If you want to see how a chat normally goes here, but you back up the stream. Well, I guess actually the chat log, you just back up the stream. So after the stream gets done, you can check the stream out and you can go through a long period of the stream where I was arguing with conservatives. Yes, yes, sir. You and Alva just came in at the end of the stream where most of the conservatives had gotten like sick of being proven wrong or bored of the argument or whatever and had moved on to other shit, right? So you came in at a time where you don't see your political beliefs reflected, and you, like Alva, are assuming that I must just be leading them. I love this conspiracy theory, bro. I love this conspiracy theory that because you don't see your personal political beliefs reflected on a trans woman stream, that must mean she's rigidly deleting all comments that don't agree with her. Now who's got an agenda, bitch? Now who's got an agenda? Alva wins, he has control of the stream. Oh, doesn't. Watch this. Ban any further mentions of Alva, and there will be no more talk of it. Not from mods, not from anybody. No more talk of their dumb, stupid fucking ass. I can't even hear a word you're saying because the quality is so terrible. Yeah, that's not how these streams work, but nice try, moron. Unless anybody else is having audio issues, I'm just going to take that one and... I love how haters have these fantasies and conspiracies. Yeah, no, dude, I know. It's fucking ridiculous. In some people's minds, there is nothing more interesting to me than watching a bunch of conservatives scroll by but not be able to say anything. Oh my god, they're so restricted. I love it. But the truth of it is, if you come in here when the stream is popping and when we're actively talking about the fascist shit that Trump is doing, or the betrayal of his values when it comes to war makings, things like that, when we're talking about the actual issues that matter, and there's a bunch of people in here, you can literally see me argue with conservatives all the fucking time. You can literally see me allow people with completely contrary beliefs to mine to stay in here. And if it hasn't been made clear yet, let me make it exceedingly clear. Mods, you are not to ban someone merely because they disagree with me. You are not to ban someone merely because they disagree with me. But I haven't seen anyone ban anyone just because they disagree with me. What I have seen is people banning trolls out of the chat. As in people who are not here to have a conversation, they're here to derail the conversation. They're here to make the conversation about them and their stupid fucking dumb fuck narratives. And their petty bullshit. You lost 30 viewers, lol, Alpha 1. It'll pick back up. Don't you worry your little head, Burger Man. I know that to you, this is the biggest moment of your life because somebody with like, you know, over 4,000 subs has actually like responded to you and had like a conversation with you and shit. So I know that for you, this is like the biggest moment of your life, but I do this basically every night. So to me, it's nothing. And the fact that there's only like 20 people hanging out at this point in the stream, I'm cool with that. I made $150 last night on Super Chats. I made $5 tonight. It all comes out in the wash, baby. It all pays out the same. Probably making some alts. Almost certainly. That would explain why we've had a dip in viewership, honestly. I am going to turn off subscribers mode again. Turn off sub mode. Because that tends to have positive effects on viewership and shit. Ultimately, I would like us to talk about some of the shit that actually matters. Like the fact that this Epstein list got basically just thrown under the rug now by the Trump administration. Mind you, the same administration that was talking all this shit about all the things that were supposedly in the Epstein list and how he was going to release it and how he was going to be the president that finally blows this case wide open. Then he basically tells the American people, nope, that doesn't matter. And he tells his base, you guys just need to get over it. Like, is that not alarming to anyone else? Is that not like a completely ridiculous turnabout to anyone else? Because to me, that seems absurd to go from in one breath, the Epstein list is critically important to figuring out who the awful people in our society are and how these abuses of power are being set up and everything. And then to say out of another side of your mouth after you've been elected, no, we're not going to release that list. There's nothing there. Don't worry about it. We're releasing the footage, but there's nothing in there worth seeing. There's a minute cut out, etc., etc. And we're just supposed to accept all of this. We're not supposed to like sniff and be like, this kind of smells like horse shit. I don't know. That shit's wild to me. This channel is insanely successful for the amount of subs. Well, yeah, and I super duper, like, amazingly appreciate that from you guys, because there are a lot of creators that have bigger channels than I do that aren't receiving as much daily support from their fans as I do. But that's why I appreciate you guys so intensely, and that's why I try to maintain such a chill vibe here, and that's why I try to approach people the way I do and shit, because I feel like my strategy is working. Slowly but surely, I'm managing to gather around me a group of people that appreciate what I'm doing, that see the utility in it, that like my personality and find me interesting or whatever, and that are down to pay me for that, which is honestly the most rewarding and fulfilling thing that I've ever done. Maybe outside of busking and street music, but it fulfills very much that same goal in me, and like that's why I'm so deeply appreciative of super chats and memberships and everything like that. That's why I call out the members that I'm like, oh, new member, thank you, because I appreciate the fact that there are so many people that are willing and ready to help me be successful. Why didn't Biden release the list or Kamala? Because there are so many Dems on it, like Clinton too, right? Well, yeah, of course. I'm not a Democratic person. You got to understand that. Like, just because I don't like Trump doesn't mean I liked Kamala or Biden. But yes, you're 100% right. The reason why Biden and Kamala didn't release the fucking Epstein list is because the Hillarys are on there. But the Clintons are on there. Like Nancy Pelosi and her husband are probably on there. At the very least, her husband's on there. Chuck Schumer, fucking Dianne Feinstein, all of these like old guard Democrats had long-standing and long-lasting relationships with this Jeffrey Epstein dude, and many of them can be found photographed with him and shit. And so the kind of like underground friendship and kind of like open secret of friendship between these people is it's an element you have to consider when you talk about the motivations of these different political parties and how many of them have had the ball now, right? The ball was in Trump's court when the accusations first came out. The ball was in Trump's court, and it left his court and went to the Biden court pretty soon after. But even when it hit Biden's court, it didn't make a lick of fucking difference. The Epstein files never came out. And we never really got much more of an update on the situation. We've continuously gotten minor updates from people that have like puzzled this or that and the other thing together, but it's been a long time since we've gotten any sort of actual declassification, and the latest declassification just seems like bullshit. So it's just like trust in the American people, the American people's trust in their government is at an all-time low, because like they look at shit like this, shit like the unconstitutional ICE raids. You can't trust your government when everywhere around you, your government is fucking people over and breaking promises and not doing shit that it promised it would do and doing more shit than it said it would do in other ways. Trump would never have won if Bernie wasn't cheated by Hillary. I 100% agree with you, Glitch Dash. I was actually agreeing with a more like DNC kind of liberal kind of person the other day about this, and they were making the exact opposite argument. They were saying, I just don't think that, I don't think Bernie would have won against Trump. And I was like, that's absurd. That's fucking ridiculous. Like, what do you mean? And then some people are like, well, Bernie didn't really win the primaries, when in fact, Bernie didn't win some of the primaries, but there are primaries that Bernie would have won if superdelegate votes, if superdelegates hadn't voted in opposition to the way their home districts voted. But I'll tell you this much. I think that Bernie Sanders would have won in 2016, even if, after they skewered him at the DNC, I think he should have basically been like, I refuse to certify the results of this election. I believe that we need to do a recount. There has been serious fraud. I know for a fact the people of West Virginia overwhelmingly elected me to be the primary frontrunner. I think he should have contested it, and I think if they still held out, then I think he should have ran as a fucking independent. And you know what? He would have sniped enough votes from both Trump and Hillary to where he might have won that shit. He legitimately might have won. Here's my fucking thinking on it. Okay, let's look back at it with a crystal ball. You've got a situation that we know the outcome of, Hillary versus Trump, right? We know the outcome of that situation. We know that in a Hillary versus Trump situation, all conditions being equal, 2016 being what it was, being what it is, we know that competition results in a victory for Trump. We know that for a fact because that's how it happened. We know that, right? So, what the fuck do we have to lose from substituting Bernie in there, from saying, well, what if Bernie had ran as an independent? People would say, well, because the reason I ask this is because if I made this argument, people will say, well, Bernie would have just split votes from the Democrat and Trump would have won. And I'm like, oh, you mean like Trump won anyway? So you're telling me that the Democrats skewering Bernie Sanders and completely scuttling his campaign might have contributed, in fact, to Trump's election because it convinced people not to vote because their fucking vote had been scuttled? Because that's what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is that the will of the people did not favor Hillary Clinton because it was not a fair fight. But Phoebe, unemployment is down, except people are still living paycheck to paycheck. Gee, it's almost like employment doesn't matter when jobs pay like 12 cents and 2 Carl's Jr. coupons an hour. Oh yeah, no, I know. And not only, like, unemployment is down in some places and it's up in other places. It is not some rigid statistic, and people need to stop looking at it like it's some giant fucking indicator of the health of our society. Because I'm telling you, bro, we are about to be facing a fucking world where unemployment is just going to be a condition of life. Where unemployment is just going to be the way a bunch of people live. You realize there are plenty of people who are functionally unemployed that aren't considered unemployed because of the involvement that they have with whatever company they own, or they've set up a company for themselves or something to run all the like rental houses that they own in an area. But functionally, what their job, quote unquote, involves is doing whatever they want throughout the day and occasionally answering a phone call to authorize an expense on a company account. To authorize an expense over the authority of the hire manager or whatever. There are plenty of people who work, quote unquote, without doing anything you would actually consider work. Answering a fucking cell phone call while you're chilling out at the beach, drinking a margarita, that is not working. That is chilling at the beach, drinking a margarita, and answering a phone call. Not the same thing. There's more effort to this than there is to that. Remember when we all thought inflation was going to go down when Trump won? I wish it came true. Bro, I didn't think inflation was going to go down when Trump won. I know better. Capitalism requires inflation. That's one of the things. It's like inflation is one of those things that people don't think about it this way. People think like inflation does not go inflation goes down, but it never goes like you never get deflation. You know what I mean? Like or I guess you do, but it requires very specific circumstances. Like for capitalism to continue going and working even as badly as it does, you need inflation because the basis of fucking capitalism is that you can always extract more profits. Companies live and die and lose support and gain support on the basis of their ability to squeeze just a little more out of the consumer every single year. So it's based on the premise of inflation. It's literally based on the idea that prices go up, 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 to the point where you get to where Japan is, where you have to have where like people hear prices for some shit in Japan and they think it's really fucking expensive, but like they'll hear 2 million yen and they'll think $2 million when really 2 million yen is like what $2,000 or something like that. Can someone remind me what 2 million yen is in equivalency to USD? Remember that guy in here earlier trying to say we currently have record low gas prices? Like, the fuck are these people smoking? I want some. Yeah, dude. Record low gas prices? Literally, that's fucking absurd. That I don't know what fucking mental gymnastics. I would love to know what mental gymnastics they're engaging in to get that number. I wonder if it's based on some like price per oil math, where they're saying, well, so in early 2000s, the price for an barrel of oil was this, and the price for a gallon of gas was this. And so if you look at that and you compare it to the rate of today, that means we're actually paying functionally less for the gas that we're getting because we're paying less. Is it some math like that? I bet it is. I bet it is. So even though people are still paying higher gas prices than they have even within the last 10 years. There have been multiple, because I've been driving for the last 10 years, there have been multiple dips in my life as a driver. There have been multiple dips in the gas prices. And I live in Mississippi, in a region where gas prices range between like lately in the last year, they've ranged between like 235 to 275, I would say, which is considered super affordable for most of America, right? That's considered a really good price for gas. So I'm not bitching, right? But around here, even like 2 or 3 years ago, it was down as low as $1.67 at one point. At one point, like for a day or two, I saw it at like $1.37. I'm not even kidding you guys. But there have also been times, I'll never forget it. I'll never fucking forget it. It was the weirdest fucking thing, right? So I got gas. This is when I was living on the road, living in my minivan and everything. And for some reason, I was going into Carbondale from Missouri. So I bucked and everything and got myself some money together. And I gassed up. I'd already gotten my bud for the, next week or 2 or 3 weeks or however long. Got myself something to eat. Got all the preparations done, right? And when I bought gas in Missouri, shit was reasonable. It was still, more affordable than I'd like, but gas is always more affordable than you'd like, right? But it was affordable. And I started my drive towards the east. Now, if you've never gone to Illinois, to southern Illinois from southeastern Missouri, it's a very unique experience because 9 times out of 10, if you're coming from there's a pretty wide swath of land where if you're trying to go east in Illinois, you're almost certainly going to cross at Chester. And so that's where I was going towards. And it's also the case that the drive between my area of southeast Missouri and Chester, Illinois is, it's populated to a point, and then you get on the interstate, and then like the highway exchange the highway interchange, that you get on to go onto the other road is just remote as fuck. There's nothing there. There's not a gas station or anything like that. Well, there might be a gas station, actually. I don't remember. If there is, it's not very memorable. Anyway, But that whole road has nothing on it. That whole road has nothing on it, and it goes on for like 15 fucking miles until you get to this other road that does have 2 gas stations right before you get onto the bridge. And I'll never forget it, dude. As like I left from this like little gas station or whatever in Missouri, gas was reasonable. I get over to the Illinois side of the bridge because I didn't even look at the gas prices as I was driving by the 2 gas stations on the Missouri side of the bridge. I didn't even look at the gas prices because I like, what the fuck did I care? The car had plenty of gas. And we got into Illinois, right? Me, myself, and I got into Illinois, and as I got further into Illinois, I came to like the first little town after Chester, or maybe it was just like the downtown area of Chester. I don't really know. I don't remember exactly. But I started paying more attention to the signs and everything, and I saw the price of gas. And it had literally, in the hour and a half that it took for me to drive from Casey's in Deloge to Chester in Illinois, gas had gone up by like 75 cents. Some shit like that. It was like, it went from being like, I don't know, like $3.35 or something like that to being like $4.02. It was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And at first I thought maybe this is just an Illinois thing, because Illinois does have usually higher gas prices, but it usually ain't that damn much higher. I know exactly what it is. The people making these claims have no ability to consider anything outside their immediate perception. I think that's a lot of what it. I think that's a lot of what it is, and I think a lot of what causes that is not going outside of your own perception very often. And I think what causes that, a lot of it, like some of it's bigotries and misgivings about traveling and things like that. But I think a lot of it, honestly, is just poverty, just good old plain fucking poverty. I think a lot of people don't have the money to travel anymore, and so those people are increasingly not able to do the sorts of things that it is utterly critical for a human being to do if they are to become fully self-actualized, or whatever you want to call it. If they're to become regular people, they have to master some of these skills. They have to get used to the idea of seeing things outside of their comfort zone, and seeing new things and beautiful things, and getting an impression for other people's lifestyles and cultures. That sort of thing is necessary and important for broadening your horizons and familiarizing yourself with other kinds of human beings. Excuse me. But the less you do that, right? The less you do that, the more you open yourself up to negative ways of thinking, to self-harmful and to societally destructive ways of thinking. Is there a non-binary Republican? I know it has nothing to do with the current topic, but does a non-binary Republican exist? Because there's trans, gay, bi, lesbian Republicans, but never seen NB. I don't fucking know, honestly. I imagine that if there's not, there probably will be at some point, dude. There'll be somebody that hops on that grift wagon. Bound to be somebody. I mean, that's the fucking thing. There have been, and I tend to think that like super queer Republicans are running a grift, because it's just like such a fucking contradiction in terms. It's such a contradiction in terms, and you either have to go completely against the Republican line on queer people, or you have to be a fucking regressive who is basically like, no rights for queer people outside of myself. I should be oppressed. And it's just like, it's hard to not see that sort of thing as a grift. Like, because otherwise you would have me believe that some people are just like so masochistic, that they genuinely like participating in their own oppression. I'm so happy you're alive. I don't remember where exactly it's from. I think it's GN, but I'm not going to look at the tag. So, but it is really cute. I really like it. It's not a dress though. It's just the top, it's just the blouse. I was about to ask if you think it's a fetish for some of them. Do I think it's a fetish for some of the people? Like some of these queer people that choose to get in positions of power that basically include them oppressing themselves and other people like them. I think it might be a fetish for some of them. Yeah, maybe the not them being whatever they are, but them being oppressed for being what they are. I think it might be for some of them. No, I think for a lot of them it is literally a grift wagon. You know, it's a fucking grift wagon. It's a Mercedes-Benz grift wagon. You ever wonder what the G wagon, the G in G wagon stands for grift, and that's what these people are. No, I don't know. I have created something though. Speaking of me creating something, does anybody remember my tongue twister from the other day? Does anybody remember that shit? The why can't I talk? The lace shoulders on the top are to die for. Thank you. I appreciate that. Girl, check you cash app. Ooh. Aw. Glitch Dash, you're so fucking sweet, dude. Oh my god. Glitch Dash, you're a lifesaver. I actually really needed that, and it really helped. So thank you so much. And if anybody else ever wants to donate through Cash App, I do have it in my description. So I know some, it's not really grift, they're just centrist and boil it down to conservative. Oh, well, that's a different thing. See, when I hear a conservative queer person, a lot of times I think of somebody who's participating in their own oppression. But if it's just somebody who's like centrist and who like leans right on economic issues, that's a different thing. And those sorts of Republicans exist alongside and still work with Democrats all over the place. That's the fucking sad thing, dude. That's the sad thing about America's cities and America's coastlines and shit is like if you go to the East Coast and especially the Northeast, or if you go to the West Coast, or especially like the Pacific Northwest, or well, I guess really the whole West Coast, to be honest, you find a lot of like, specifically in the cities of these places, it's like you find this more European style of governance, right? You find this style of governance where you've got, sure, you've still got the party duopoly, but you've got a way wider variation of thought within those two parties. So you'll have like a city like New York City, where the Democrats in New York City range from people like Hillary Clinton. Literally, Hillary Clinton is a New York City fucking Democrat. I mean, she became an NYC Democrat. She wasn't always, but you get the idea. You know, she's a fucking New York fucking Democrat liberal motherfucker. And then you've got somebody like Zohran Mamdani. Same fucking city, you know? Same fucking city. And both of these views are represented in the Democratic Party of that city. Whereas if you go to a Democratic Party somewhere in the South, you're usually just going to find people of one particular political position or another. And usually what you find are people that are like more like politically moderate, kind of center left. Thank you for the $1.99. I appreciate that, Unicorn Warlord. You're so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. Aw, Sophie, fucking member. That's so cool. Hope you're having a good Friday. I am. Mr. Naughty Priest blessed me yesterday, and people have been fairly generous in the stream. So, I mean, we're only up to 698. If anybody else wants to change that, feel free. But it's still a pretty good stream. You know, we got decent views earlier. Trippa C, what's up? What's up? I worry about following fake people, but you are so real and your rants are so fucking real, and I adore it. Very real woman speaking for us all. Thank you. That's so sweet. You're kind. I'm sorry if it sounds like superficial when I accept a compliment. I'm really trying to get good about it, but the best way I've found to do it is just responding like that, you know, rather than just being like, nah, I'm a bitch, you know. I'm trying not to be like my mom in that way. Because, like, I think it's charming, but it's also, like, self-deprecating in a way that I don't really want to enforce. Not only in myself, but I don't want it to be a habit that my son grows up with or something like that. Wish I could donate money. Don't worry about it. If you can't, don't worry about it. Like, if you're not able to, you know, I ain't talking to you, you know. I'm talking to the folks that might do some form of public content. Because ultimately, I just like chilling with people. And I don't think that good art and interesting conversation should be behind a paywall. Now, that being said, I do see a utility in providing extra high-quality content for people that are willing to pay, but I don't see much of a utility in hiding everything that you do from people who don't pay. if that makes sense. And honestly, I think in a perfect society, nothing would require anybody to pay anybody, you know? I think people would just be provided with what they needed to live and what they wanted to enjoy, like a decent amount of luxury based on the high amount of technology we have. And people would do what they're passionate with or passionate about. And I would probably still do these in a society like that. I'm donating my attention. That's all I can give at the moment. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's like there's a deep level of appreciation in me, not just for the people who super chat, but for the people who just sit around and watch, you know? Because everybody deserves to like have access to this shit. It's just like a base level. I've been trying to pop by more often. It's great to see you succeed with the channel. I've been thinking about trying this myself. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea if you've got some sort of like if you've got a decent presence, or even just like honestly, all you have to do is be interested in it and get used to seeing yourself reflected at you a lot. Like I've come to peace with it by staring at myself in the mirror a number of times when I was really high on acid and mushrooms. That sort of thing will annul you permanently against like being freaked out by seeing yourself reflected at yourself for a long time. It's almost like I'm looking at an alien when I see myself reflected back at the camera. So if you can get over that weirdness that comes from camera presence and camera awareness, then ultimately all you have to figure out after that is just like how to fucking jack off at the jaw with no end in sight, basically. I mean, dead air is the death knell of any fucking entertainment medium. There are some people that get away with it easier than others, but I prefer not to leave the audience with nothing to listen to, which is why my fucking dumbass blabbering mouth is always blabbering on here. That's why I'm talking for, like, honestly, sometimes my voice hurts a little bit when I get done with one of these because I am so averse to dead air. And sometimes I'll let a little dead air hang, especially when there's some nice noises happening. But you guys know me, I try not to have that happen. And a lot of that is just the part of the magic of being a streamer, right? But if you can get used to that process, and if you can get used to letting your brain's natural stream of consciousness create interesting things to say, and just saying it out loud and like working those two things at the same time, you can become like really successful at this. Like that's all it takes. You're nailing it, girl. You're doing good things too. You brighten my night. Aw, thank you. I appreciate that. TJ said the worst thing you can be is boring when it comes to entertainment, and I tend to agree. Oh, 100%. Frey couldn't be more fucking right on that. One of the many things that you just, like, there's no argument against it. Yes. The worst fucking thing you can be when you're entertaining is boring, which is why I try to keep these sorts of things baseline, listenable, and fucking engaged. You know, I try to keep people engaged with the content in one way or another. You know, that's why I argue with people. That's why I take things more personally than I need to, or respond to them with more vitriol than I utterly need to, you know. Will America finally be great again when there's bread lines once more? Yeah, as far as I can tell, that does seem to be the direction the Trump regime is trying urgently to push us, what with mass deportations depriving us of massive amounts of agricultural labor, and trade wars making sure that imports of food aren't going to fucking save the situation either. We're looking at a pretty fucking fucked up situation when it comes to food prices. And I don't think people have realized what that means yet. I don't think it's come home to a lot of people that if things go along the same track they're on right now, we will eventually have bread lines in every major city because people won't be able to afford basic fucking staples anymore. We rely on Hispanic people for agricultural labor. When we have to replace them, right? When we have to replace them with regular temp agency workers and things like that are going to demand an actual fucking wage, that aren't just going to settle for being paid under the table and offered no benefits, who are going to have to write up actual contracts and shit. The farmers are going to increase the price they're asking for the crop. The companies are going to increase the price that they're asking for the product from these stores. These stores are going to increase the price that they're asking from you, and they're going to increase it by such a fucking massive amount to cover that extra labor cost. And nobody in the Trump administration is going to do a fucking thing to prevent it. It would be one thing if they were going to do this and institute some price controls and shit and say, nope, you have to take it out of your corporate profits. Take it out of your fucking massive fucking paychecks. Take it out of your fucking shareholders, but you're not taking it out of the American people. That would be one thing. That would be an actually populist thing to do. What Trump is doing is just outright fascism without even the veneer of populism. Or with only the veneer of populism. I wish there was more leftist content creators like you. Honestly, I do too. Not to say that I think I'm some fucking great advocate, but I do think that more leftist content creators need to have conversations with conservatives. More leftist content creators need to engage right-wing people on their terms and with the things that they believe. More left-wing content creators need to take seriously the concerns of the Midwest and the South. More leftist content creators need to step out of line with the fucking Democrats and the DNC. The poisoned ass fucking uniparty needs to go away. And more leftist content creators do need to step up to the plate and say, nah, no, 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 no. What if the government controlled the food instead of private cooperation? Corporations, I think is what you mean. Rather than the government controlling the food with this shit. But I think it starts with encouraging people who can gardens, just like they grew victory gardens back in World War II and during the Depression and shit. I think step one is encouraging everybody who can to grow gardens and having a massive government program to incentivize people with like a tax write-off or something if they can submit proof somehow that they've planted a garden, that they've dedicated a certain amount of space in their yard, like a minimum amount of space in their yard to gardening, right? So I think that massively encouraging people to take back control of their food supply. Also, by the way, I think this is something that mutual aid orgs, there are already some that are pushing it. I think more of them need to push it. I think food pantries need to start maybe popping up that are based on the premise of taking fruits and vegetables and produce in general that is not as suitable for the broader market, but that is still perfectly edible and shit, and turning that into goods for some sort of food pantry network. So I don't know about the government controlling food. Like, is for the government to provide resources for people to control their food. Does that make sense? That's what I think we finally landed on it, by the way, Triple C. Thank you for this. We have finally landed on what pisses me off about people on the right when they say that I just want a bunch of government and I just want government to do everything. No, that's not it at all. I want the government to create programs that give people the resources to take back their food supply. To take it out of the hands of people like Monsanto and Bayer. To take it out of the hands of big agribusiness. Because big ag doesn't give a fuck about you. Big ag gives a fuck about money. Big ag doesn't give a fuck about you being able to grow fucking tomatoes from the seeds in the tomatoes that they sell you. They give a fuck about profits. And they'll put as much frog DNA into tomatoes as they need to get that fucking shit to sit on shelves as long as they need to ensure that sale. And I think that that's fucked up, not because there's anything inherently wrong with genetic modification, but because a lot of people have just clearly expressed interest in wanting to not fucking have to eat a bunch of weird fucking shit that's highly processed. Even if there is nothing scientifically wrong with it, it's still not appealing to a lot of people, and there's still a lot of people that have problems digesting the shit. Hi, frog DNA. Yeah, I mean, I know I sound like Alex Jones when I say this. I probably am not crazy. Yes, like some of the genetic modifications that have happened to things like tomatoes include inclusions of pieces of DNA from animalian sources. And like I said, there's nothing inherently wrong with it. There's nothing inherently wrong with it in theory. What is wrong with it, in my opinion, has been the execution of it, the privatization of it, and the lack of clarity and transparency when it comes to the process and the amount of fruits and vegetables that are affected by it. Because some people legitimately do have problems. Like my mom is one of them. She can't digest a store-bought tomato, hardly. But she can digest fine a regular heirloom tomato. Because a store-bought tomato is fucking grown and genetically fucking insured from seed to be some kind of fucking crazy tomato that's gonna stand up to being in transit from field to store for a month and then sitting on the fucking store shelves for an additional 2 weeks or whatever. If we can turn the frogs gay, we can turn the fucking country around. Goddamn right. Tomat gang. Tomat gang. Limp flippered frog? Yeah. DeSantis is better than Trump, though. Like, if unfortunately the election boiled down to Trump or J.D. Vance or DeSantis, how big DeSantis, bro? DeSantis seems like he's even more of a nightmare to queer people, at least, than Trump is. But I don't know about a lot of DeSantis' other policies. I know that he's been pretty harsh on immigration as well. But other than that, I'm not that familiar with his policies. So maybe he's a better Republican than Trump. I wouldn't be the one to ask. I have a different opinion on GMOs, having worked for labs in Cali to make biosafe pesticides and herbicides. Well, my thing about GMOs is not that they're bad, okay? I'm not saying that there's anything inherently wrong with GMOs. My big thing is that right now, like, when I say big ag, I mean, like, agribusiness conglomerates and shit own so much of the food supply, it's actually kind of go out of the way to find an heirloom tomato or to find a tomato that's not subject to things. And a lot of that is not ultimately because these corporations are dark, shadowy, evil entities twirling their mustaches. That's because, like, in order to generate a profit from selling fresh tomatoes, you have to figure out a way to get a fresh tomato from Mexico, where it's being grown all year round, to fucking, you know, I don't know, central Missouri or something, where it's going to actually be sold. And that trip, that's a lot of miles. That's a lot of fucking miles in a refrigerated truck. That's a lot of, like, squishing and fucking handling and shit. And in order to deal with that, I understand you have to genetically modify a tomato. Plenty of plants have been modified to increase their shelf stability, to increase their resistance to herbicides, or to increase their resistance to pesticides, the resistance to pests themselves. Like, I'm not against the science. What I'm against is the monopolization of the food market by big ag. And I feel like GMOs are just a part of that. I feel like it's a part of the strategy. But ultimately, maybe you're right. Maybe it's not right for me to rail against GMOs necessarily, because while they may be a part of the problem, they're also just like a necessary thing if you're going to live the way we do now. Reefers are expensive and they wouldn't ship it in a reefer truck anyway. I work in logistics. Well, don't you have to ship, like, certain fruits and veggies in a reefer, though? I don't know. I worked for a fruit packing plant one time, but we kind of fucked around when I was working there, at least on one of the shifts that I worked on. So I didn't learn that much about the logistics side of it, but I did see a shit ton of refrigerated trucks coming in and a shit ton of produce being unloaded off of them. So I don't know if that's indicative of anything, but, you know, something I think back on. I think I get what you're saying about GMO. It's almost the same situation as Google AI summary. I want an option to opt out without having to source all the way out in Mexico. Well, yeah, exactly. That's my thing, right? I'm not against the science. I'm not against the technology. I'm against it being used to secure big ag's place in the marketplace, which is largely what it's being done to do, right? Like, and that's where I resent it, right? It would be one thing if this genetics technology and everything, and this is how, honestly, like, I think in a nationalization of the food supply situation, I think that these R&D departments, like the one Unicorn was talking about working at, I think that these R&D operations should be turned into R&D that is like squarely aimed towards bringing reliable foods and easy to grow foods to places that need them and have had trouble growing a lot of their traditional crops, or that have had trouble growing other staples or something like that. Modifying existing crops to make them better suited. Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm not against the fucking technology at all. I want it to be, but I just want it to be applied in a way that is people-centric, not corporate profit-centered, if that makes sense. Like the idea of, for example, infertile seeds is an idea that I'll always be opposed to. Like the idea that a company can basically set you up with a contract where you have to buy seed from them every year, and the seed that the plants that grow from the seeds that you grow are not going to be fertile. They're not going to be able to put off like seeds of their own. I think that that's pretty fucked up, and that's an example of this sort of technology being used in what I consider to be a pretty negative way. But I think there are applications of the technology that are perfectly justified. Even the ones I was talking about earlier. If, for example, you're trying to supply the average American worker with fresh produce, I think a way better solution for that is encouraging as many people as we can to grow gardens, encouraging community gardening, and encouraging, like people who want to return to farms. And housing reform could help get that done. Basically, take production back to these places and kind of get back into the mode of like being less reliant on the idea of a fresh tomato all year round. Eventually you get to the point where like everybody grows enough tomatoes in the summer to can enough for the winter and to enjoy what they want throughout the summer, and like you've taken care of that particular need. Oh, thank you for the $5. I appreciate that. That's so kind of you. Thank you. Yes, OMFG. Yes, the sign of us, not the rich girl. Yes, exactly all that. Okay, so yeah. See, we're not far apart. I didn't think we would be. That's why I wanted to explain my position more, because I figured that we would probably agree on this topic. Because it's not the science, it's not the technology, it's literally just the fact that it's being used to cement corporate America's control over the food supply. That is my only problem with it, literally. No problem with the tech, no problem with the philosophy behind it or anything like that. I just don't, like, I just want you and me to be able to get just as much use of it as anybody else does. You explained it perfectly? Well, thank you. I tell you what, guys, I will be right back. I am going to do a rare thing. I am going to go inside and use the bathroom. Get me another drink. And then I'm going to come back outside. Hello, Earth to planet. Do you see me? Do you read me? Are you there? Hello? Is anybody in there? Can you guys not hear me or see me? Seriously? Say psych right now. Nobody knows? Like, am I just speaking to an infinite void of blackness right now? What has happened? Hello? Knock, 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 knock. What the fuck? Okay, hold on. Hold the fuck on. Am I coming through? Someone just say yes or no. Am I coming through? Is there lag? Refresh your streams? Something. I feel like I'm going insane. Hello? Okay, let's try this again. Yay! Riley confirms that there's fucking that I'm here. Yay! I'm not dead. For a second I thought I died in there and this was my hell. Bro, for a minute there, I straight up thought I died and went to hell, and this was my hell. Infinitely streaming to a loyal band of people that ever increases, but that can't hear what I'm saying and don't know that I'm there, but that expect me to come back, dude. Real quick, any favorite movies? Least favorite? Oh, okay. So favorite movies in general would be the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I cannot think of a more perfect capturing on film of any creative work. I just think it's the epitome. Like, you don't get much better than Lord of the Rings movies, just in terms of, like, they transcend the art form. They elevate it. Like, it almost feels condescending to call Lord of the Rings a movie. It is, that's what it is, but it's just too fucking good. So as far as, like, favorites, that's an easy one. But as far as least favorite, that's a lot harder, because I could say The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, right? But that implies that it is still a favorite, that it's just the least favorite. Um, so I really don't know. I really don't know. Yeah, I got nothing. Really, the one that jumps out the most is The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. Opinion. Upper education needs to be more accessible for broke. I 100% agree. I think education in general should be taxpayer funded. I think it should include higher education. Because right now there is a serious problem where people, like, one of the ways that people are able to preserve generational wealth is because America's been set up as a country where, for the most part, you either have to do really, really, really well or be born rich in order to get into America's most prestigious universities. I would love to change that so that any student from any background, as long as they pass qualifications that other students would, can get into these fucking nice schools. Now, I know rich people that pay a bunch of money to the endowments of these places in order to, like, get their kids special treatment and shit are probably not going to like that very much. But I don't know. Maybe we're just going to have to fund these places better and allow them to expand, allow them to hire more teachers, allow them to expand their reach and shit. Lord of the Rings, yes. I've only seen the first Lord of the Rings. My friends wish they could see those movies for the first time again. They jelly. Oh, dude. Oh, you are in for such a fucking treat when you watch the other movies, though. And when you do watch the other movies, after that, you still haven't done the complete thing. Because at some point, everyone in their lives needs to do a full Lord of the Rings day. Literally. A day where you start the day with Lord of the Rings and you end the day with Lord of the Rings. But that is very hard to do. That is like a 12-hour long watch sesh. My sister went to Yale. She worked really hard. We were from a poor family. Yeah, I mean, you can get into a college like that if you're from like a poorer background. I just think it should be made more easily accessible to people who are from a poorer background. My sister was a stripper in San Diego for a while, then went to Sac State and got a degree, then won a scholarship and went to Yale. Yeah, I mean, if like I said, if you've got that work ethic and you've got that like really good test scores and shit too, like you're a really smart person and everything, like you can obviously get into it with enough driven effort, but there's also a bit of luck involved, and I would like to take out some of the element of luck, right? Because there are plenty of people who work their asses off and just end up, like there are people who have a similar situation but not nearly as good, and I would like to expand the access for people who can get it, uh, you know, to the betterment of all of us. Because there are plenty of people who work their asses off and they go from a weird job to like a local state university or something like that, and then on from there to a more prestigious graduate school or something like that. That's not that uncommon a story. But what is uncommon in America is anyone who's ever graduated, like, I'm talking regular working class people. It is just not that common to meet someone with a with a with a degree from Yale or Harvard or MIT. And I get that that's part of the point. But I like to think that if we got privatization out of the system of higher education and we made it something where the main focus was not profit but rather providing a decent education, I think that we could create a system that incentivizes people to learn more, that incentivizes themselves to, or I'm sorry, incentivizes people to make themselves into better students and to pursue that as a path because they don't see it as something that's going to add a bunch of debt to their lives to no benefit possibly, because that's a lot of the reason why a lot of people don't go to college is because they think I think I would be really good at this if I went to college for it and everything, but what if I go to college for it and I just can't find a job in it? Now I'm saddled with all this debt and I'm still working at the same dumbass fucking corporate job I always was. And that fear keeps a lot of people out of school. And I just wish they wouldn't be, right? Honestly, it's less about prestigious universities in my mind and more about basic, like, fucking city colleges and stuff like that, right? State universities, city colleges, more local kind of like run of the mill sort of higher education institutions. I think that those should be way more easily accessible. Like I said, I think that they should be free at the point of service, paid for by taxes. Yes, higher education doesn't help a lot these days. I make good money, no formal education, but also I'm in a one-bedroom apartment with my kid because fuck California apartment rent. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you a bit. Definitely fuck Cali apartment rent. Is this cat ready to come inside now? Oh, fuck you. Oh. Yep, there was a kitty. But yeah, you don't have to have formal education or anything to be successful in this country, but it does help. Um, but even if it didn't, like, I think people should be able to pursue higher education without that burden on them, which is why I think it should be free at the point of service, paid for by taxes. My sister's starting to get into college and she's mixed. She's gotten several acceptance letters from like top colleges and she had a healthcare program that was like very diversity friendly at Ford Hospital. Yeah, I mean, like, depending on the area you're in, there might actually be programs that are meant to make sure that people of color are, you know, more represented in the industries that they've like traditionally been more excluded from. So that's definitely less prevalent in some areas than others. It just depends, right? Like I'm sure in some places, yeah, being white probably helps quite a bit with getting an acceptance letter. But there are other places where, they're like where it's just not how it is. I don't know where you live, but I mean, I make 84K a year, and I'm slugging by. Oh, dude, I don't make anything like 84K a year. Not even near it. Oh no. But I live in Mississippi, where the cost of living is fucking bone cheap, and I live on land that my family has owned since the 1940s. So there's no mortgage, there's no rent, nothing like that. So our cost of living expenses are incredibly low for a family of five. If you count everybody in our house, it's quite a few people, but we're able to get by on not that much money, as far as just like the bare minimum requirements to just get by, because it's like an electric bill, trash bill, I think. No, I don't. Due to some weird arrangement, some fucking settlement a long time ago, or some shit like that, we don't have a trash bill for whatever reason. Um, so no trash bill. It's like an electric bill, and food expenses, and that's basically it. Internet bill and phone bills. So, but just in terms of pure cost of living, we have to pay very, very, very little. We don't have like a $2,000 a month rent payment hanging over our heads, which is something that puts us in a better position than a lot of people. Like there are a lot of people living on the West Coast that are paying like 2 and 3 grand, like grand, 3 grand, 3.5 grand for a fucking apartment. I could never. I can't even imagine. Dude, if I made $84,000 a year down here, that would be life changing amounts of money. That would be like, holy shit. You live on family land? That's amazing. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I mean, like, I definitely count my blessings where I've got them. What are your pronouns? She, her, hers. Thank you for asking. At least cost of living is cheap in MS. My state has the same wages, but big city housing prices. Oh, yeah, dude. And that sort of thing sucks. And honestly, those higher housing prices are even coming to the South. I mean, the South is not immune from them. It's just that cost of living in general is still cheaper down here than it is in a lot of other places. But you can still find overpriced apartments down here. You can still find apartments worth way more, or I'm sorry, that apartments that are worth way less than what people are asking for them. Apartments that are just being upcharged because of their location and shit. Like the few downtown apartments that are left are all that way. A home in my little town is average 700K. Oh my fucking god. $700,000 for a fucking house. And I'm assuming that's not even coming with a lot of land either. I'm assuming that's with like maybe an acre of land if you're lucky, right? We're not talking about some giant McMansion with a whole fucking estate. We're talking about like a house with a tiny, tiny little backyard and a tiny, tiny little front yard, right? Hi, Alicia. An Acer? Do what? 10K is life-changing for 90% of Americans. Sad. Oh yeah, 100%. My parents had to pay so much for our current house, they could barely buy anything that we didn't need for like half a year. Oh yeah, dude. Like, new house expenses can be fucking insane. And especially when you combine that with a super high cost for the house in general, right? And like the mortgage payment and everything else. Yeah, it can be kind of hard getting like back on your feet effectively after you buy a house, because it's like, yay, we've got this house. We can technically afford all of this, but you're constantly cutting things close and digging into savings and shit like that just to afford everything for the first year. Because you know, if you go even a tiny little bit outside the budget, everything's just going to fall apart. And that's the state, by the way, that's the state that the rich like to keep us in. They like to keep us in a state of constant peril, where we're just barely able to afford everything, where we're just barely able to hold it all together. $700K gets you a teeny tiny land, like literally your feet from the neighbor's house. It's wild here in California. Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. That's just ridiculous. That's fucking absurd. That is way too fucking much to pay to live in a shitty, unwalkable suburb. That is way too much to pay. Dude, if I'm paying 700K, I better have a fucking country estate. I better have a country estate with a gate coming off the road that you access the driveway from, and a 2-mile long driveway. I better have like security and shit, like a security shack out in front. I better have like a guest house for 700K, bro. Dude, like 700K can literally buy you like that shit could buy you a farm in Missouri. That shit could buy you a fucking estate down here in Mississippi. Yeah, I can barely afford. Yeah, no, I believe you. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the amount of fucking the amount of gouging that's going on. The extraction that's underfoot. Tired, y'all. Tired of all the bullshit. Tired of this capitalism shit. Sick to fucking death of this idea that because you were born rich, you get to lord over my life, decide where I can live and can't live, decide how much I gotta work just to be able to live, decide policy. When are we finally going to get together and decide that other people being born rich does not entitle them to control over our society? We're going to come to that realization pretty soon. Because I'm ready. I'm real ready. I will say, I know why Cali is so expensive. It's so fucking beautiful. I drive anywhere in my town, and it's fucking hills and gorgeous. Wineries 20 minutes from me. Sucks, but I get it. I mean, yeah, but that's part of it. It's also the fact that, like, well, maybe that's all of it, right? Because a lot of the reason why California is, like, a lot of the reasons why, let's go through the reasons why California experienced its main population booms. So you've got the population boom associated with the gold rushes and shit. So there you go, a bunch of people finding not just beauty in California, but also finding legitimate like mineral wealth in it and shit. Then you've got the Dust Bowl migrations that came with the 1930s and well, basically up through the 1910s all the way to the 1950s. You've got like various different immigration booms to California that happened in association with Hollywood kind of becoming a thing, with people starting to film a lot of movies and a celebrity culture growing up around California. And if you think about it from that direction, right, a lot of people a lot of like a lot of people that were deeply influential in all sorts of industries and in all sorts of like media apparatuses and shit. A lot of them settled in California in the very early days and haven't left, and a lot of those economic interests still exist in that state. And so it's like a state that's got a disproportionately high number of like super fucking rich people, and that tends to drive up prices. Cali's culture is a big part. It's the closest thing in the U.S. to a consumer-friendly state. Huh. Interesting. I'll have to look into that more. I work in wine in Napa, so that's why I make good money, and my company is an ESOP, so company owned. I'm very stupid lucky, and still struggle. I don't live in Napa though. Can't afford that. Yeah, I mean, nobody that lives there, nobody that lives there works there, and nobody that can afford to, uh, or I'm sorry, nobody that works there lives there, and nobody that lives there works there. And I'm sure a lot of places are like that because I've been through a lot of places like that. Now, not every tourist town or whatever, not every like touristy area or kind of ritzy ditzy area is like that. There are some areas that have a real niceness to them that do have a local population and shit that aren't just rich people who flocked to the area and turned it into a non-functional mess. But that tends to be what happens. Most of your coworkers live in Napa. See, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. They're also high fancy people, like they're wine people. Do they probably make a little bit more money than you do then probably, right? Because like otherwise I don't, like they probably wouldn't be able to afford to live there. So that I mean that checks out, you know. Like I'm of the opinion that once you start getting into the earnings bracket where you can live in the nicest part of town and in like the nicest town in your state or whatever, um, that's that's like the beginning. Like okay, this is a rich person bracket, if that makes sense. Oh, they're also dual income. Oh wow. Okay, fair enough. Oh, are you saying they're like dual income as in like they're married or something? Like they've got two incomes? Okay, I get it now. You've seen that South Park where they are all smelling their own farts? No. No, but I was never a huge South Park fan either, though. You keep up with any TV? Not really. No, not really. I used to be a huge TV watcher back when I was a kid and when we had cable. And I don't know why, but in fact, actually, I do know why. I'll tell you why I don't watch TV anymore. And it's because nothing ever stays on a streaming service long enough for me to get into it, stay into it, and rewatch it multiple times. Like, and I know that's not universally true. I know everybody's going to be like, that's fucking stupid. There's all these different shows. It's not the point, okay? My point is this. There are a million different streaming services, and if you get all of the ones that I want to get to keep up with, like, what TV is, right? To get into some shows and actually have a selection for that, I'd be paying what I used to pay for fucking cable. What my family used to pay for fucking cable would be effectively what I'd be paying now with all these subscriptions and shit. So I'm just like, fuck it. That's stupid. I'm not going to do it. And so I don't participate. You know, I'm not in the TV world. Now, if I see like a show that looks super fucking interesting to me on Netflix or something like that, I might check it out. And if I check it out, I might really like it. But I haven't done that in a fucking dog's age. I mean, mainly because we haven't had a Netflix subscription in a long time. But like, even before then, like I said, I hadn't done it in a dog's age because it's just hard for me to find a show to get into anymore. And I feel like a lot of the TV that I like is kind of stupid anyway, honestly. Like, my TV takes are not great. You don't want my TV takes, bro. Like, I like Survivor, you know? Like, I'm functionally a grandma when it comes to TV. I sure do like that Survivor. I would love your TV takes. Okay, well, there are a few shows that I've liked throughout the years. So, Criminal Minds I used to watch with my mom a lot, and I used to like that show quite a bit. I'm not pro-cop in any way, but I do find those sorts of shows to be kind of gripping and interesting. And I found the characters involved to be pretty well written and interesting characters, if not a bit one-sided in a couple of cases. Let me think. Dexter was a show that I originally watched with my mom, rewatched it a couple of times when I was living with her, and then as I grew up, it became a show that I would go back to time and time again because I love it. I think it's really fucking excellent TV. I think it's consistently captivating in a way that I've found few other shows to be. And I also like the continuity, like the element of continuity in a season. Every season is a story, and every episode leads into the next episode and ties into it in some way. They're all continuations of each other and rely on each other and everything, and I think that's super cool. Not every season of that show is great, but it's a show that I go back to a lot. Same thing with House MD, and like, kind of for the same reason. And House does it in an even more subtle way. House does it in an even more subtle way by having very few episodes where a patient doesn't either die or have their case solved by the end of it. Most episodes end with the fundamental plot elements of that episode being tied up, but there's always a few kind of side stories and everything that you might think are tied up, but that actually get reopened in the next episode, or that aren't tied up properly, and so you wonder what's going to happen in the next episode, and then you find out, but they don't. It's just so well written that it never comes off as cheesy. It never comes off like a forced continuity thing. I love it. House MD, great TV. Watch it now. Oh my god, and here's some ones that is just going to get me made fun of. American Pickers, I love that show. I think it's cool as fuck to watch these dudes rummage through people's junk and see what the fuck people have put back. Because, dude, people have put back all fucking weird kinds of crazy shit. Think about people in the modern day, right? Everybody knows somebody that keeps, like, any random thing they think might be useful to them at some point in the future. Everybody knows somebody like that. And every single person that the Pickers go through is a person like that who has grown old or has died. Literally, every single one that they go through is somebody like that who put away every little nut and bolt that they thought might conceivably have a use at some point in the distant future. And, every old car body or whatever, stashed it away in a barn somewhere. and they're prowling through their stuff looking for little gems. And I think that that's so fucking awesome, because it's like, it's I think they actually call themselves American archaeologists or something, or Americana archaeologists, something like that. I think it's a really good, apt descriptor. They're like cultural archaeologists, functionally. They're taking the temperature of American history by looking back through the shit that people throw away, basically, or, well, rather the shit that people don't throw away. Quite a bit. I like Pawn Stars. I don't watch it anymore, but I always liked Pawn Stars quite a bit. I love learning about all the different things that they bring in. I love all the antics that the boys get into. I don't give a fuck if it's fake or real. I'm down with it. Let's see. Do I have any other ones that are worthy of me being made fun of? Let me think here. Any other really horrible shows that I like? Any other really horrible shows that I like? Can't really think of any. I'm 80K in debt, but I can't part with that can. 500 is too low an offer. Yeah, exactly. I love that dynamic, bro. I want to watch Little Pony, but my parents, I don't know also who else likes. Well, what are you talking about, Capybara? Dude, I am not a fan of those fat shows, bro. Capybara, I hate those fucking... And not even because I'm a fat ass. I can accept that I'm a fat ass and that I'm not the person portrayed in 600 Pound Life, but literally, I'm enough of a fat ass to know what it's like to hurt a little more because I'm fat. I know what it's like to fit a little worse in a narrow space because I'm fat. I know what it's like to find things that are made for, like, folks that aren't fat, and to feel like, God damn, it sucks that I've let myself go like this. And it's not fun. It's not fucking humorous. It's not something to be taken lightly. It's a fucking health condition. And I think God, well, not God, I guess, but whatever. I think the powers that be, nature, whatever you want to call it, for every day, for the fact that I have never, ever let myself get to that point or anywhere close to it. Like, I'm pretty fat now, but slowly in the process of losing weight, slowly in the process of phasing out super sweet drinks out of my diet, replacing them with lower calorie drinks and water and shit like that. It's a process, and it should be. It's something that, like, no fat person wants to stay fat, or at least very few fat people want to stay fat. But it doesn't help a fat person to lose weight to make fun of them a bunch for being fat. I don't think it's really effective in getting them to go to the gym or anything like that. Especially because as long as you normalize making fun of fat people, you're going to end up with people that make fun of fat people for literally engaging in anything. That are going to make fun of fat people for everything they do, including things that they would do to lose weight, which is going to discourage them from losing weight, which is going to lead to more fucking fat people. And so we can say, well, they just need to get over it. Or we can stop fucking on fat people that choose to go to the gym, or talk about their diet, or whatever the fuck else. What the fuck is a fat show? That sounds horrible. Oh, dude, it's these fucking shows. Like, the most famous of them is called My 600 Pound Life. Oh, I don't even want to fucking explain this shit, but I guess I will since you asked. Okay, so, listen. Depravity knows no bounds. And if you've been on the internet long enough, you've figured this out by now. But on cable television, there have been some real shenanigans allowed. I'm talking shit like Celebrity Rehab. I'm talking shit like Dr. Phil. And I'm also talking shit like My 600 Pound Life, which is a show that focuses on people who are in what I like to call the ready for market stage of fatness. People that weigh 600 pounds or more. They are in the 600 plus club. and people basically, my understanding is that they get paid a little bit to be on the show and to share their story and everything. The show helps them like achieve weight loss and everything. Like that's the idea of it, is like it's a weight loss journey. It's supposed to be documentary in nature, but really what it is parading these like big giant fat fucks around, getting a bunch of content that's basically meant to make less fat people feel better about themselves by being like, oh, at least you're not that big giant motherfucker. At least you don't have like grease under your third fupa. Hey, at least you're not Boogie 2988, basically. At least you're not whatever, right? Which is fine. We all engage in that to some degree. But My 600-Pound Life is an example of a show that's the entire fucking core of it. That's what brings people to it. That's what keeps people coming back, because so many of the stories on My 600-Pound Life end with a big fat motherfucker, just like they started with a big fat motherfucker. Now, some of them have real turnarounds, but most of them don't. Most of them have like a minor turnaround, or like okay, well, they're not gargantuan anymore, but they're still chunky, whatever. But maybe that's the healthy way for them. I'm not trying to be judgmental. I'm just saying, if this was some like super fucking effective show that just had to hook people with the grotesque images of these people's like what should be kind of like private fucking things, like, I'm not saying that people that are like that don't have a right to talk about their affliction and to have media exposure for it. It just feels sort of sick to me that our society has decided, yep, that's valid entertainment. Yep, I'll sit around and watch that for an hour. I'll sit around and watch some 600-pound woman who literally cannot even get out of bed anymore. I'll watch her like sit and slowly wither away and like talk about her, to basically talk about her life in terms of suicide if she could only fucking get up off the bed and do it. And I'm going to watch her slowly be browbeat into lifting some arm weights. And I'm going to watch her, lose 80, 100, 120 pounds and finally be able to get up and walking again. That shit is depraved. I'm sorry. It just is. You're watching someone go through what should be like a private healthcare process that they're helped through by a universal healthcare system. And honestly, that is what has failed a lot of these people more than anything, is lack of a universal comprehensive healthcare system. Even if they have insurance, like when it comes to truckers, like even if you have insurance, you're not guaranteed to always find a fucking emergency room or a doctor that takes it. And if you're on the road all the time, you don't have all that much time for appointments. So it's just like so many fucking people go with undiagnosed conditions and don't get the proper medical advice that they would probably need to get ahead of themselves when it comes to the obesity epidemic and its causes. My grandpa died from being 300 pounds overweight, complications, so I'm adverse to those shows. I'm also overweight, 5'9", 190. It's a struggle, but I'm working on it. Yeah, and that's not too bad overweight, honestly. Like, pretty manageable, in my opinion, like amount of excess weight. It's not like you're knocking on heaven's door. I'm way fatter than I probably should be. Last time I weighed out, it was like 304, something like that. Time I weighed out before that, though, it was like 346, I think. So I've lost like 42 pounds, which is nice. But if I remember correctly, with my height, I should be somewhere around like 225, 230-ish. Diabetes. Very. Why was I about to say that in Wilford Brimley's voice, too? Very manageable, but I'm so inactive. I'm very active, so that's yeah. I mean, I would be way more active if I didn't have this fucked up ankle/foot situation going on, but that has made it incredibly difficult for me to stay active and do shit, which fucking blows. Fucking sucks. I mean, it is what it is, but it fucking sucks. You lost how much? 42 pounds. Now, that was over the course of like a year. Probably a little less than a year, actually. But still. Impressively, I need to lose like 37 pounds to be a healthy weight. Oh, that's not too bad at all. That's not too bad at all. Yeah, I've got quite a ways to go before I'm my ideal weight. I would like to lose, for sure, about 60 more pounds, probably. That's crazy. I don't know about that. Isn't that a pretty normal rate of weight loss? Like, aren't you, like, isn't like, lose a pound a week? Isn't that supposed to be a pretty manageable goal? I guess I must be doing something right. Yeah, I think so. Hell yeah. Bro, we are sitting at 1897 in super chat revenue, and I was just thinking about it. I've been making a little over $20 a night on most nights for most of my streams for the last like since basically the beginning of July. And if I can keep that pattern up, I could like, and if I can keep that pattern up consistently, I could be making like at least 600 a month, which is like pretty fucking amazing. That's like part-time job level. Aw, thank you, Unicorn Warlord. You're so fucking sweet. You have officially gotten us to 28.96, which means we have gone over 20. I might start doing like a stream goals thing where I'll tell people as the stream starts to get bigger and bigger, like, our initial goal is 20. If you guys get to that, I'll extend the show by 30 minutes and extend the goal to 50. And if you guys get to that, I'll extend it by another 30 minutes and I'll extend the goal to 100, Because people seem to like to pay for this shit. People seem to like to watch it. But thank you so much for that. That is genuinely appreciated. That makes me super happy. My earnings for July have been amazing, and I really fucking appreciate you guys for that. That is like, I don't know, an amount of support I never would have expected. So it's just really cool to find so many cool people out there that like this sort of environment, that like this kind of vibe, and that are willing to help support it. You make me smile. Well, you make me smile. So it's a reciprocal sort of like relationship. It's commensalism, they call it. It's a symbiotic relationship. You stream for love and you stream for money. Well, yeah, I mean, basically, basically. And I also stream more than anything to have conversations. Like, I feel like I've got plenty of people in my life that are okay with talking about politics, but don't want to talk about politics and lifestyle shit and just bullshit for as long as I want to talk and sit around and talk about bullshit. So for so for me, these are really helpful in a way because it allows me to get out of my head a little bit and get some of my thoughts out, create a few good rants and shit. It's healthy for me. And as near as I can tell, it's healthy for a lot of other people too, because I've seen so many people talk about how they find a level of commonality and conversation here that they don't find in a whole lot of people. That tells me I'm doing something right. You'll be streaming forever? I don't know about that. Honestly, Riley, I've heard Paul talk about how he eventually wants to get to the point where he doesn't necessarily have to do. Now, maybe I'm fucking getting this all wrong. I'm not trying to start any drama or no bullshit. I want that to be fucking clear from the beginning. And I may have misinterpreted something Paul said, but he's talked about how he would like to maybe open like a little coffee shop or something like that, or a little bakery, something someday, and possibly get away from just doing like content. But he's also said, he would still be like, he never said that like he wouldn't be a part of the show or anything like that. So, I don't know that necessarily qualifies as a plan to retire, but when I heard him talk about that, it made me think, let's say I did get successful on here, and let's say I started, because back then I wasn't monetized, but I started thinking, like, say I did get successful, say I did get monetized and everything, at what point would I stop streaming, or would I ever? Would I just keep making content? Probably, honestly. The more I thought about it, the more I realized, like, yeah, I probably would. There would probably be a certain point at which I would completely stop pimping it in terms of like money making. Like because I really do want to have a restaurant or at least a little food truck at some point that I can make the types of food that I excel at in, and vary it up a little week to week and everything. Provide people with a fresh menu, good ingredients, all that shit. I care about that. I want that someday. And if I reach something like that, then there might be way less utility in looking at this as like a money making enterprise. But then again, I might continue to look at it as a money making enterprise so that I've got more money to fund other passion projects and to put in my kids' college fund and shit like that. You know, because I could easily turn my food truck into an element of my streaming. I could literally just make a separate channel for it. I don't know where all of my tax dollars go, but I know exactly where every one of my Phoebe dollars go. Hey, that's true. That's true, Riley. You do. I'm very open about that shit. I am a pretty transparent person. I never thought about that, but I am. I'm very transparent about who I am and what I am. You know that you know, I'm buying a little cannabis. At the very least, like, I'm buying a little gas station cannabis probably, but I'm buying a little cannabis from, you know, the super chats I'm making, and I'm buying some vapes from the super chats I'm making, and I have a computer payment and a payment for the bed me and my partner share, so rent to own payments that come out of it as well. Um, Obviously gas and shit to get around town, do shit you need to do. But I've also got the family farm, and anybody who's been watching me long enough knows that I've got animals that I'm responsible for feeding, and you guys' donations go to that as well. Like, I can't, I cannot overstate the value of you guys' contributions to this channel. I hope you get that big. There are no trans streamers big. Well, there's ContraPoints. She's a streamer, isn't she? Doesn't she do streams, or does she not? This should be a money thing. Right on. I'm glad that you don't think of me as a sellout for thinking of that as an option. We got to keep you high, Riley. I, I. You're right though. I like. Why would I judge? Why would I even try to pretend you're wrong? The more money you make, the more we get to see a trans woman online who isn't scared. That's true. I mean, like, I'm not saying that I'm any better than any other trans girl out there, but I do think that it is probably ultimately useful to have somebody like me out here who doesn't voice train, who is otherwise outwardly completely effeminate, and who doesn't give a fuck about defying gender stereotypes, who doesn't give a fuck about the fact that she doesn't fit into everybody's little narrow image of what a woman should be, and who is unwilling to cower away from the things that people say to her, who's willing to have the argument if you ask it in a way that's like, you know, baseline respectful, that's not like shit stirring from the jump. Too bad about Demon Mama. I know. I don't even want to talk about that. That just gets me depressed. I literally don't even want to talk about it, bro. I'm so scared for my niece, and you give me hope. Aw, thank you. You're so strong. And honestly, like, a lot of that strength just comes from experience and from knowing that most people have a very loud bark, but not very much bite. And from knowing that violence is ultimately a pretty uncommon thing, you know? And that a lot of these people talk a lot of shit that they'll never fucking answer on. And yeah, some people do very occasionally. And sometimes people lose their lives from that. But you know what? Some people lose their fucking minds on the highway and plow into a bunch of people and cause a 24-car pileup too. That happens also. We gotta be scared of everybody who drives every time we say goodbye to them. I mean, it sounds like a way to have a lot of anxiety about your life. I don't choose to look at things that way. I recognize that a car is the way you're most likely to die in America, hands down. That's why I advocate for them being banned from cities after we built an adept and robust public transit network to get people from the outer ring roads into the inner cities. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. I don't like get scared when someone I love goes out for a ride in a car or something like that, you know? You also advocate for women's rights as a woman, and that's rare too. Help us. Exactly, literally. I try my best to, yeah, because like um women's rights are fucking human rights. It doesn't matter if you're a trans woman or a cis woman or a cis man or a trans man or anything else. It doesn't matter who you are. You should be able to see the fucking utility in women having a choice as to whether or not they carry a pregnancy. And for women having a choice when it comes to the matter of birth control. And for women having autonomy in general. The idea, when did patriarchy become a like a curse word to throw around against liberals? Like, I never fucking forgot the lessons that I learned from third wave feminism. And I see them play out to this day. We just don't talk about them in the same language because we got so hard ass owned by the alt-right and nobody had good fucking answers to them, at least in terms of the rhetoric that was getting popular back then. And so we didn't have much of a response to it back then, but ultimately the lessons that we learned remain the same. I really like your streams. Hope you get big. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's hard because trans suicide is high. My niece was already hospitalized for that. Thankfully, she's in the Bay Area, so we're lucky she gets the best help. Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, I mean, it is really fucking sad that she has already dealt with that sort of thing. Um, Man, it is hard to give a prescription for that sort of thing too, because I don't know enough about you guys' life to know what would be a good suggestion and what would be a shitty suggestion. But I can tell you one thing that helped with me a lot is having queer friends. Having non-straight, non-hetero friends, like non-hetero, non-cis, and I know that sounds woke as fuck or whatever, but having friends that weren't just like straight cis people helped me immensely to feel more comfortable being myself and to feel more alive, I guess. More like it helped me solidify my place in the world. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm getting to the point where I'm really high and I'm really tired and I'm not making a whole lot of sense. So, queer friends are so helpful. Okay, you guys get what I'm saying. One thing I do think you should do is to mention queer people in other more religious conservative countries because they're really struggling. Oh, well, yeah, that is something worth talking about. Yeah, I mean, queer people in America are definitely oppressed in some ways, but queer people in places like Iran are completely repressed. Completely repressed, completely oppressed, not allowed to express any of their, um, any of their inward desires openly. And if you're found to be engaging in it, like behind closed doors, there are extremely harsh punishments and things like that. Now, I'm careful. I think the reason why I don't talk about queer people in these other countries as much is because I think a lot of times people will use rhetoric like that as an excuse to say, well, this U.S. strike on Iran was justified because this, that, and the other thing. You know, like you should fucking support the war in Iran or the war in this, whatever war in the Middle East we're going after this time because they kill queer people over there. Don't you realize that? If you're such a liberal, you should support this war, right? When in reality, there are ways to get that changed that do not involve bombing those people. There are things we could do to change that. There are movements that we could support. There are, and I'm not talking about with weapons and fucking shit like that either. I'm talking about like humanitarian support, organizational aid, things like that. There are even ways that we could exercise military power that might actually be um, that might actually be effective in like trying to fix these places functionally. But I'm also very careful about that rhetoric because I don't want to war hawk, and I definitely don't want to be the reason why. I'm not saying I'm big enough to do this, but I don't ever want to be the reason why some narrative gets started that helps us get sent into war. Fuck that. So I'm a straight white male, and it's still hard, although the American dream is out of reach for 90% of us now. We gotta lift each other up. Yeah, exactly. A rising tide raises all ships. That's why. That's why, by the way, Riley, all of my proposals for things we can do to improve the country, that's why all of them cover everybody. That's why none of them are particular to any one specific group of people. Like, my 5 demands are, let's see if I can remember them all. Universal health care, infrastructure renewal with an eye towards public transit, a high-speed rail system, housing reform, and a food stipend. And I don't know if food stipend would be as good an option as student loan forgiveness. That might be a more immediate one, like student loan forgiveness and making higher education free at the point of service, paid for by taxes. I think those 5 policies, if you boiled them down to witty slogans for each one, I think that those 5 policies would be very easy to enact in America and would also help every single person that we've been worried about here disproportionately. It would help them disproportionately because they've been disadvantaged in that way so fundamentally, right? So, like, really, if you want to help trans people, help everybody, because that is the most effective way to do it. Come up with things that, by definition, help everybody. And that's why a lot of the things that I advocate for are economically based. They're matters of universal import in terms of people that live in this country. Hello, straight white man. That's my boyfriend. He supports me 100%. He goes to private with me, and his non-binary kid is just a gem. Wait, really? Wait, Riley, do you and Unicorn know each other? Are you in, like, wait a minute, for realsy reals? For realsy reals, though? Yeah, if you want to help trans people, that's the most trans thing I've ever heard. Thank you. Yeah, no, for sure. I believe it, though. I genuinely believe it. Second Bill of Rights now? Yes, 100%. No, I've never met any of you. No, I have no idea who this person is. Oh, okay. You were saying, now I get it. Now I get it. You were saying that that's exactly like your boyfriend. Okay. Now I'm caught up. I hope we all meet at the meetup November 1st. Dude, I want to make it to the meetup so fucking bad. I can't afford to get tickets with my July payout, though, so I'm going to have to... I don't know. I'm going to have to hope and fucking pray that there's still at least, like, 1 ticket left in August. Or that I somehow luck into, like, you know, a bunch of money before then. At least I'll find you buy a ticket. I'm going to have to get off here soon. I'm getting real tired. Real sleepy. Meetup? Oh, yeah. Well, me, Riley, and Glitch Dash are all fans of a podcast called Deep Fat Fried, and they are having a meetup November 1st at Dingbats in Clifton, New Jersey. Also, fuck biphobia. Just had to say that. It's been so bad recently. I feel like I have to say how many vaginas I've eaten to get my hate card nowadays. Yeah, it is really, it is literally ridiculous how many fucking people want to police bisexuality, and it's from all directions too. And I don't know what the fuck started it. Honestly, some of it feels like biphobia coming from bi people that want to protect it like it's some sort of like delicate little label that only people they like and approve of can have it appended to them. It just feels fucking exclusionary as shit. Anyway, I'm gonna go. I'm fucking yawning. I'm sleepy as fuck. I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.